Chapter 1 opens late at night as Shen Shi wakes in a daze, still thinking about the update he had been waiting for. Then, still half asleep, he reaches out for what he thinks is a soft mouse, only for a frightened little scream to answer him. Confused, he wonders why this mouse has no buttons, while a trembling voice begs, "Master, please do not touch that." That single word snaps him fully awake. Someone just called him master. Soon after, he freezes in place, eyes wide, trying to understand the impossible scene in front of him. A young woman stands in front of him, and Shen Shi can barely speak. If this is a dream, it is far too vivid. For one reckless second, he assumes it is only a dream and lets his common sense slip. Moments later, the girl panics and begs him to stop, fear written across her face. She cries out in panic as the strange situation spirals out of control. She is too afraid to run, convinced her master would punish her harshly if she tried. So all she can do is beg him to stop. On the other side, the man suddenly snaps out of it, realizing the dream feels too real and vivid. He looks at the girl, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. He recognizes her as Kang Yuling, a character from his own novel. Then, a sharp pain shoots through his head as memories flood his mind. Kang Yuling, worried, asks him what is wrong. She panics, thinking her master might die. If he dies now, she would be blamed by the sect. If anything happens to him, she believes the sect will punish her without mercy. Soon after, he calls out her name, Yuling, his voice soft. He gently tells her not to cry, wiping away a tear from her cheek. He reassures her saying, "I'm fine," though he is still processing the situation. Moments later, Kang Yuling is stunned. Her harsh and frightening master is comforting her so gently. She thinks he must have damaged his brain. He snaps back to his usual self, asking her why she is crying and if she wants him to do something about it. Startled by his sudden change in demeanor, she yelps in surprise. On the other side, relieved, she says, "That is great. Master, you're fine. Just stay fine." He facepalms, realizing that the character he had written as cute and timid is different in reality. He has a shocking realization. He has crossed into the story of Long Aocean, a novel written by himself. Then, he is now Shen Shi, a golden core stage cultivator, and the ruthless second master of Shangding Shangzhang, a character who does whatever it takes to become stronger. In the plot, he covets the protagonist's treasures and opportunities, deceiving and intimidating him from the beginning and even trying to destroy him. Later, when the protagonist achieves Jindan, the first thing he does is defeat Shen Shi. Shen Shi's life becomes worse than death, and the protagonist's journey is a series of cliches. Soon after, he grits his teeth, realizing the gravity of his situation. More importantly, he has become the first cannon fodder boss sacrificed to the protagonist. He wonders if this is because he always writes the villain's name the same as his own. He laments not writing himself as the protagonist's friend or master. Then, in an instant, he has an idea. Wait, Goldfinger. According to the setting, there should be an accompanying system or cheating finger for a traveler like him. He dramatically calls out, "Come out, super villain system," on the other side, but there is no response. Only an awkward silence. He realizes that this might not be the setting he thought it was. He desperately calls out different types of systems. Krypton gold system, lottery system, hate system, love system, but nothing happens. Then, he yells in frustration, wondering if this is happening because he is not the author of the system genre. A dreadful thought crosses his mind. Could it be that I'll die after coming here? As he lies in bed deep in thought, Kang Yuling approaches him, calling him master. Soon after, he recalls that Kang Yuling is his youngest disciple, who, in the novel, started to worship the protagonist after he appeared. He realizes that, according to the timeline, the protagonist has not yet met Shangding Shangzhang and become his disciple, nor has he taken revenge against him. This gives him an idea. He clings to the leg of a new plan, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Moments later, he knows the protagonist has a lot of luck and is extremely short-sighted. If he can maximize his favorability with the big guy and become his #1 licking dog, he might be able to follow the protagonist to the top. He also notes that there should be many beauties in this world. Judging from Kang Yuling's cuteness, a sinister grin spreads across his face. If you think about it this way, life seems to be quite promising. He decides to turn around his bad image of being violent and impermanent. He starts by being gentle with Kang Yuling. On the other side, Kang Yuling completely misunderstands him and panics. Shen Shi, just as confused, insists he has not done anything. He thinks to himself that this is too foul. According to the character's setting, he should always abuse them, so it should be fine to do something now. He reasons that it is not just for him. The readers also love to watch it. Likes, favorites, comments, and barrages will explode. Then, his expression darkens as he decides against it, with a firm, "I refuse." He yells at her, "Okay, stop crying, shut up." She immediately brightens up, replying with a cheerful "Yes, master." Soon after, he thinks to himself that he can't bully this stupid child. He decides to slowly change his image and build a good relationship with the other apprentices who have all defected to the protagonist's side in the novel. Just then, a voice calls out, "Master, disciple Xuanyu has something to report." The chapter ends as a red-haired girl rushes toward the master's quarters, worried that her little sister may have angered Shen Shi while delivering his spirit tea. Chapter 2 opens as Shen Shi moves through the courtyard with a determined expression, followed closely by a curious Kang Yuling. He is on his way to meet his second disciple. Then, he recalls the character profile he wrote for her. She is Ming Tian's gentle-hearted and sentimental sister, but unfortunately, her cultivation qualifications are mediocre. He remembers her tragic fate in his novel. He had beaten her to death for protecting the protagonist, which became the catalyst for the protagonist's revenge. He vows to himself that he won't do something so stupid this time around. His thoughts shift to a much more exciting topic, a carved jade that contains precious inscriptions. He drools at the thought of the treasure. Soon after, he arrives to find his disciple already there. He internally thinks about using his cheat eye to check her out, while outwardly asking, "Why are you looking for this, master?" He is greeted by the sight of his disciple, prostrating herself on the ground in a deep, formal bow. He internally complains about her overly dramatic entrance, blaming his past self, the damn main author, for writing her this way. Moments later, he calmly tells her to stand up, while she remains bowed before him. She rises, revealing her worried face. She reports, "Master, Xingjian Tang has sent an invitation." Shen Shi, completely caught off guard by her appearance, comically loses his composure and gives a thumbs up, thinking, "Nice body." On the other side, the second disciple is relieved to see that her junior sister, Kang Yuling, is safe and sound with their master. He recognizes the name Xinjiang Tang as the administrative department of the Shangding Xianzong sect, confirming another detail from his novel. He asks to see the invitation, but his disciple flinches, her face filled with panic. Then, stammering, she confesses that the invitation hasn't actually been sent yet. She quietly panics, thinking it is all over. She lied because she was worried about her little sister, and she is sure that for a disciple with low talent like her, the master will punish her for this. Shen Shi, however, sees right through it. He knows she made it up to protect her sister and internally sighs, "Why are my apprentices so stupid?" Soon after, deciding to be merciful, he tells her she can take Yuling back, and he will spare her just this once, giving her an easy way out of the situation. Her face immediately lights up with relief and joy as she thanks him. He then adds a new rule, telling her that in the future, she doesn't need to kneel. A normal greeting will suffice. Moments later, thrown off by his sudden kindness, she can only ask, "Master, what do you mean?" He awkwardly brushes it off, saying that talking to her back is annoying, so she should just be obedient and stand when she talks to him. As he watches his two disciples leave, he reflects on how difficult it will be to change their perception of him, since Shen Shi's original character was so villainous. On the other side, with newfound determination, he decides to embrace his role as their master and properly guide them in their cultivation. His two disciples watch him go, their expressions a mixture of shock and confusion at his uncharacteristic behavior. A quiet resolve settles upon him as he walks away, ready to change his own fate. Then, the second disciple, Xuanyu, stares after him, a shy blush on her face as she whispers his title, "Master." Kang Yuling playfully teases her, asking if she is blushing because she finds the master good-looking. Xuanyu flusters, quickly denying the teasing. Meanwhile, Shen Shi arrives at his personal domain, Erbai Peak. Among the 12 mountain peaks of the sect, its concentration of spiritual power is second only to the main peaks. Soon after, at the very top are two incredible treasures, a garden of Edelweiss herbs, and a hotbed made of pure white jade. The Edelweiss has the ability to gather qi and provides essential materials for cultivation, while the white jade hotbed is a treasured place that helps cultivators achieve breakthroughs. These two treasures, along with his own power as a golden core cultivator, are why the other masters are jealous, but dare not make a move against him. Moments later, he remembers a crucial detail from his novel. Hidden in the garden is a mutated Edelweiss, the protagonist's very first power-up. He decides he needs to get his hands on it first to prevent any future mishaps. He smirks confidently. After all, he wrote the plot himself. What could possibly go wrong? Just as he thinks he is worrying too many, his thought is abruptly cut short by a shocking sight. On the other side, he finds a flock of cranes digging up his priceless herb garden. He explodes with anger, shouting, "What the hell? Stealing from my home." He charges at them in a comical fit of rage, accusing the beasts of digging their own graves. As the cranes try to flee, Shen Shi gets serious, preparing a powerful technique to stop them from escaping. Then, he unleashes a massive energy attack, shouting its name, "Mountains Descend." With the cranes grounded, he fumes, complaining that the birds used his precious plug-in for afternoon tea and wondering how his disciples could have let this happen. Furious, He uses a communication talisman and bellows, "Everyone come to the Edelweiss herb garden." Soon after, he watches from the top of the stairs as his disciples rush up the mountain path in response to his summons. He notes their terrible speed and poor fitness, making a mental note to arrange for a grueling morning training session starting tomorrow. A few moments later, his disciples finally arrive, completely exhausted and gasping for air. Seeing their state, he tells them to catch their breath before they talk. He turns his attention to his third disciple, a girl with white hair, and orders her to stand up. He is taken aback for a moment as she looks up, surprised by her unique appearance. On the other side, the disciple, glowing with a faint aura, respectfully replies, "Yes, master." He recalls her profile. This is Han Xianpi, the most talented of his 4 disciples, possessing rare dual fire and wood spiritual roots. He is intrigued to see her unique physique in person. In his original story, she was merely a tool to highlight Shen Shi's brutality. He never taught her any proper cultivation exercises. Then, despite this mistreatment, she was a conscientious person who handled her chores without complaint. He thinks to himself that a disciple with such a unique physique and talent is a treasure that should be cultivated properly. He turns to the 3 of them and demands to know who was supposed to be guarding the garden while the cranes were wrecking it. Soon after, the 3 disciples remain silent, exchanging nervous glances but saying nothing. He finds it interesting. He is clearly a cruel and ruthless master, yet his disciples share a strong bond and always protect one another. Not talking, he presses. Then, a realization dawns on him as he scans the area. "Huh, I see." The chapter ends when Shen Shi realizes the true culprit is his eldest disciple, Dongyer Lili. Chapter 3 opens as Shen Shi deduces that his eldest disciple, Dongyer Lili, was responsible for guarding the medicine garden. He also realizes she must be injured from the punishment he gave her in the past. Then, feeling a pang of guilt, he blames himself. At that moment, his other disciples fall to their knees, begging him to forgive their elder sister. Xuanyu even takes the fall, claiming it was her fault. Putting on his villainous persona, he erupts in anger, shouting at them for being too noisy. He towers over them menacingly, asking if they are trying to teach him what to do. His disciple trembles and insists she would never dare. Soon after, he dismisses them with a wave of his hand, telling them not to test his patience. Internally, he sighs, knowing he has to act fierce even though he has no intention of punishing them. As they scramble away in a comical fashion, he sweats, wondering to himself, "Am I really that scary?" Later, Shen Shi surveys his peak. Erbai Peak is divided into 3 areas. The first is a modest area for entry-level disciples and servants. Moments later, the second area is much more refined, with better housing for the more excellent disciples. And the third area, the grandest of all, is his personal residence. The second area also contains a powerful spirit gathering array, which makes the spiritual energy twice as potent as it is outside. On the other side, he wonders why his disciples choose to stay in the inferior first area. Then it hits him. They're too afraid to stay near him, afraid that he could punish them without warning. He decides to check on his eldest disciple, arriving at her residence. He worries about her condition. In his novel, he only mentioned her injury briefly and hopes it wasn't too serious in this reality. Then, without thinking, he bursts through the door, only to find her in the middle of a bath. He is stunned to see the numerous scars covering her back. Startled and blushing, she stammers out, "Master." Shen Shi freezes, his own eyes wide with shock and embarrassment. Soon after, she quickly apologizes, not knowing he was coming, and pleads for him to leave. He slams the door shut and facepalms, mortified by his own actions. Shen Shi is embarrassed, but his imagination gets the better of him for a moment before he snaps back to reality. Moments later, but his smile fades as the image of her scarred back returns to his mind. The wounds were truly shocking. He recalls her story. As his first disciple, Dongyer Li suffered the most abuse. Despite this, she reached the 9th level of the Qi refining realm. More importantly, she was the only one who remained loyal to him after he was betrayed by his other followers. A steely resolve forms in his eyes. He makes a silent vow. "Don't worry, such a situation won't happen again." On the other side, inside, Dongyeli sinks into the water, her mind racing. "Master saw me in the bath. Will he lose control and frighten her?" After a long moment of silence, she peeks over the edge of the tub, wondering if he has left. A strange thought crosses her mind, a hint of disappointment. Why did the master just leave like this? Does he not have any interest in me? Then, in an instant, the door flies open once again, and Shen Shi strides back in, startled. She can only stare as he approaches her again. She is stunned, thinking to herself, isn't he progressing too fast? Soon after, he commands her, "Open your mouth." Panicked, she pleads with him, reminding him that she is his disciple. She fears the worst, thinking that in her weakened state, another one of his harsh training might be too many for her weakened body. To her surprise, he simply pops a pill into her mouth. Moments later, she looks up at him, completely dazed and confused. He explains that it is a yuan elixir, a priceless 4-grade pill, and he only has about 10 of them. He instructs her to quickly absorb its power, Immediately, a warm golden aura envelops her body as the elixir takes effect. On the other side, she closes her eyes and begins to meditate, focusing on absorbing the immense power of the pill. Shen Shi watches over her. He thinks that after giving her such an expensive treasure, she should now be able to smoothly break through to the foundation-building realm. As night falls over the peak, a different scene unfolds. Then, two figures sneak through the woods under the cover of darkness. It is Kang Yuling and Xuan Yu on a secret mission. Kang Yuling gives the all-clear signal. She confidently reassures a worried Xuan Yu that their master cultivates at night and will never notice them sneaking into the second area. Soon after, Xuan Yu urges caution. She reveals they managed to acquire a powerful healing pill for Dong Yueli, and that they must deliver it to her safely. They arrive at their elder sister's door and call out, announcing they've brought medicine. When there is no response, they begin to panic, fearing she might be asleep or worse, have succumbed to her injuries. Moments later, believing the situation to be critical, Kang Yuling decides they have no choice but to break in. With a crash, the two of them tumble through the door. As they pick themselves up, Xuan Yu looks up and freezes, her eyes wide with disbelief at the scene before them. On the other side, they see Dong Yuli peacefully meditating in the bath, enveloped in a divine glowing aura. Junior sister, Kang Yuling whispers in awe. Look, elder sister has ascended to immortality. Xuan Yu is speechless. All her wounds have disappeared, she exclaims. Meanwhile, Kang Yuling is simply mesmerized by the entire spectacle. Their jaws drop, completely stunned by this unexpected turn of events. Then, in an instant, a chilling voice looms over them from behind. What are the both of you doing here in the middle of the night? It is their master. Terrified, they whip around. Xuan Yu stammers that they were just there to see their elder sister, while Kang Yuling nervously presents the healing pill they brought. Shen Shi looks at the medicine bottle and understands their intentions. He reflects that while his disciples may not be prodigies in cultivation, their moral character is truly commendable. Soon after, he informs them that their elder sister is in the middle of a critical breakthrough and orders them to leave so as not to disturb her. The two disciples quickly agree and scurry away. As they leave, Kang Yuling whispers to Xuan Yu, second sister, the master has become kinder. Is he still the master we know? Moments later, Xuan Yu, looking thoughtful and a little flustered, can only reply, I don't know. The chapter ends as Shen Shi watches them leave and realizes he genuinely cares about these disciples. From now on, he resolves to become a good master. Chapter 4 begins on the serene top of Erbai Peak, where a new day is just getting started. Then, inside his residence, Shen Shi meditates, taking stock of his abilities in this new world. He recalls the character he wrote for himself, a dual spiritual root of water and wood, skilled in illusions and healing. His ultimate move is a spirit art called Overlapping Mountains. However, he knows that in the hierarchy of cultivation arts, spirit arts are at the very bottom. Mastering it alone won't be enough to make him truly powerful. Soon after, he is currently in the Golden Core stage, just one step from the nascent soul stage. This power level, he realizes, was perfectly designed to make him the ideal first boss for the protagonist to defeat. Curious about his current strength, he decides to test it out. He channels his spiritual energy, forming a small bolt of power in his hand. Moments later, he fires it at a nearby wooden chair. The chair is instantly obliterated into splinters. He smirks, satisfied. This feeling is pretty amazing. On the other side, with his new resolve to be a good master, he knows he must also focus on his own cultivation. As he settles in to cultivate, a strange feeling washes over him. He feels a shift in the world's energy, wondering exactly what is happening here. Then, standing on the peak, he realizes the world is responding to him, almost as if it recognizes him as its creator. In a sudden surge of power, spiritual energy floods into him, and he effortlessly breaks through to the nascent soul stage. He understands now, as the author, the world's rules bend for him. His cultivation will have no bottlenecks, and in battle, his enemies will be weakened while he is strengthened. Soon after, a wide, triumphant grin spreads across his face. This is a cheat beyond his wildest dreams. The heavens themselves are helping him. He could even reach the god stage if he wanted to. However, he decides to be strategic. For now, he'll suppress his realm back to the Golden Core stage and stick to the original plot. Moments later, with this incredible advantage, he is confident he can always stay one step ahead of the protagonist, no matter what cheats the hero might have. He laughs with giddy relief. This means I can always be the protagonist's master and cling to his thigh for support. It still hasn't dawned on him that he could just become the protagonist himself. His crazed laughter echoes across the lonely mountain peak. On the other side, the second day arrives, bright and clear. A sleepy hand pushes open a door. It is Kang Yuling, rubbing the sleep from her eyes as she greets her elder sister. Then, outside, Xuan Yu asks her why she looks so tired. Kang Yuling complains that she heard their master's unsettling laughter all night and was too scared to get any sleep. Xuan Yu tells her to hurry and get ready. The master has summoned all of them to the white jade hotbed at the very top of the mountain. Soon after, with no time to waste, they prepare to head out. The 3 junior disciples race up the mountain, not wanting to incur their master's wrath. At the peak, Shen Shi is already waiting. Having been there for so long, he is starting to get sleepy. Moments later, Dong Yureli, his eldest disciple, announces that her sisters are on their way. Shen Shi quietly observes, a plan forming in his mind. Dong Yureli, looking fully recovered and more powerful than ever, Shen Shi thinks that she successfully broke through to the foundation building realm last night. On the other side, her 3 junior sisters finally arrive, collapsing from exhaustion. Shen Shi thinks to himself, now for them. He issues a new command. Every morning they are to gather here and cultivate for 1 hour. Their new training regimen starts immediately. Though exhausted, his disciples accept his command. Then, however, Han Xianpi speaks up, suggesting she should just do labor, believing she would only hold her sisters back. She laments that, I don't have a cultivation method yet, so. At the same time, she thinks, I'm just a good-for-nothing who can't even cultivate. Maybe I'll remain as a laborer till I die of old age and I won't be able to save my mother. Shen Shi asks her age. He remembers that in the novel he refused to teach her because he feared her mysterious background. But now, as the master of this world, he has nothing to be afraid of. Soon after, she quietly replies that she is 14 years old. Shen Shi looks her over and cheekily says to himself, 14 years old, indeed not small. He explains, you are supposed to start cultivating the golden core stage between the ages of 9 and 12. Moments later, tears well up in Han Xianpi's eyes. As Shen Shi says, at the age of 14, the meridians in the body are about to take shape, even if you start cultivating now. But Shen Shi gently places a hand on her head, reassuring her that it is not too late. He promises to teach her the sect's cultivation methods himself, telling her that with hard work, nothing is impossible. On the other side, overwhelmed with gratitude and hope, she can only whisper, Master. She flashes back to a time 4 years ago, a time of ridicule and contempt from others. Amidst all the scorn, one person reached out a hand to her. Then, it was Shen Shi, who took her in and made her his disciple when no one else would. Overcome with emotion, she hugs him tightly, crying tears of joy. Her sisters watch in complete disbelief. Is this really our master? Is he such a gentle person? The chapter ends with Dong Yureli smiling warmly, as she says their gentle master has finally come back. Chapter 5 picks up after a grueling morning of practice. The disciples are exhausted. Then, Kang Yuling collapses onto a rock, complaining about the tough new training regimen and her aching feet. Xuanyu pours a bucket of water over her head, tired but focused. She gently scolds her junior sister, reminding her that their master is doing this for their own good, and she shouldn't complain. Meanwhile, Han Xianer heads down the mountain to wash vegetables for their meal. Kang Yuling playfully tackles her, asking if the master has been overly strict with her training. Han Xianer, flustered, tells her to stop making trouble. She defends their master, explaining how he is personally teaching her and even allowing her to use his precious white jade hotbed. She is determined not to let him down. Moments later, watching her go, Kang Yuling asks Xuanyu if she truly believes their master has changed back into the gentle person their eldest sister remembers. Xuanyu admits she doesn't know, but recalls how they were all rejected by other sects, Han Xianer for her status, and herself for her poor spiritual talent. She then playfully teases Kang Yuling, saying she was rejected for being dumb. Kang Yuling puffs out her cheeks in annoyance, insisting she is smart. On the other side, holding her younger sister close, Xuanyu concludes that since their master was the only one willing to accept them, Han Xianer, walking up the steps with her basket, finishes the thought in her head. He must be a gentle and good teacher. Her thoughts are interrupted when she spots a group of unfamiliar disciples path ahead. Then, she confronted the disciples, demanding to see a token to pass. The leader of the group smirks, recognizing her sister Shenfeng. You forgot me so soon. She recognizes him as senior brother Zhao Huangming and asks why he is here again, remembering he came recently to pick Edelweiss herbs. Soon after, he explains that his peak recently lost 7 valuable medicinal cranes, and his master sent them to search the various hilltops. Han Xianer's eyes widen in shock. Medicine crane? Zhao confirms their value, explaining that their blood and feathers are precious treasures. He asks if she has seen them. Moments later, with a nervous sweat, she quickly lies, claiming she hasn't seen any. A flashback reveals the truth. She, her sisters, and their master had a feast with one of the roasted cranes. The memory sends a wave of panic through her. Thinking fast, she tells them they need a token to proceed, as her master has a bad temper. She tries to buy time to figure a way out of this mess. On the other side, Zhao tries to sweet-talk his way past, but she firmly stands her ground, refusing to let them pass without a token. His friendly demeanor vanishes. He insults her, calling her a talentless nobody who can't even cultivate. He grabs her arm aggressively, declaring that she is courting death. Then, one of his companions tries to warn him off, reminding him that the peak master is the infamous and ruthless Shen Shi. Zhao scoffs at the warning, confident that Shen Shi wouldn't care if a weak disciple like her was defeated. A fire ignites in Han Xianer's eyes. Soon after, she unleashes a surprising burst of energy, effortlessly pushing him back. Zhao is completely stunned by her unexpected strength. Han Xianer takes a defensive stance, ready for a fight. Moments later, infuriated, Zhao can't believe he was blocked by a girl with no cultivation. Despite being at the 3rd level of qi condensation himself, he accuses her of stealing techniques from her master and lunges forward, vowing to teach her a lesson on Shen Shi's behalf. She knows she is no match for him, but she stands her ground, determined to protect her master's prestige, even if it costs her her life. On the other side, just as he is about to strike, a cold voice cuts through the air. "Is it up to you to teach my apprentice a lesson?" Shen Shi appears in a flash, unleashing a powerful wave of spiritual energy. The trespassing disciples are sent flying, completely overwhelmed by his power. Then, he turns to his disciple, a proud smile on his face. "You just did a great job." Han Xianer looks up at him, her heart swelling with admiration. He turns back to the intruders, with a dismissive hump. The defeated disciples, led by Zhao, immediately begin begging for forgiveness. Soon after, Shen Shi spares them, telling the juniors to leave and to send their master if they have any complaints. He gently turns to Han Xian, his expression softening as he asks if she was injured. She reassures him that she is fine. Shen Shi asks, "So, what are they here for?" Han Xianer, in shock, replies, "Master, you don't even know what is going on, yet you beat them up." Moments later, Shen Shi tends to the remaining 3 medicinal cranes, which now reside on his peak. He tries to encourage them to mate, hoping to get rich by selling their valuable eggs, much to the embarrassment of his eldest disciple, Dong Yareli. He ponders why they aren't breeding, theorizing that the one he ate was the only single crane, leaving 3 already established pairs with no interest in mingling. On the other side, he gives up on his get-rich-quick scheme for now and turns his attention back to his disciple. He asks Yueli if her new foundation-building realm has stabilized. She confirms that it has, thanking him once again for the life-changing medicinal pill. Then, he tells her it is time to learn spells. He reveals she possesses a mutated ice root, similar to water, and offers to teach her a spirit-level water technique he has. Overjoyed, she promises to practice hard. However, she becomes flustered under his intense gaze, wondering, Master, why are you taking so long?" The chapter ends with her completely flustered, overwhelmed by how long Shen Shi has gone without disciplining her. Chapter 6 opens at the Immortal Sapling Conference, where immortal sects gather to choose promising young disciples. Then, the Shangding sect, though not the most famous, is an up-and-coming righteous sect, and they are hosting this year's conference. Allied sects like the Yuhua sect and Dongming Pavilion have also come to observe, as the quality of new recruits can determine a sect's fate for decades to come. Shen Shi states that, so we should pay attention while selecting. Amidst the serious atmosphere, Shen Shi lounges carelessly, surrounded by his beautiful disciples. One of them gently chides him, saying his posture is ruining his reputation. Soon after, from a distance, a woman with striking red hair from another sect takes notice of their peculiar group. She smirks, finding the unconventional master to be quite an interesting person. Her pink-haired junior sister teases her, asking if she has taken a romantic interest in him. Moments later, the woman dismisses the idea, stating that if it weren't for his dark and cruel history, she might have actually considered it. Shen Shi seems to sense their gaze. Looking over with a neutral expression, the red-haired woman gives him a playful, flirtatious look from across the arena, and shows something priceless. On the other side, her bold gesture sends a shockwave through the stuffy and proper sect elders, who look on with scandalized expressions. The effect on Shen Shi is immediate. He gets a massive loses his composure, much to the horror of one disciple. Shen Shi in heaven mutters, "Shitty charm." He nonchalantly wipes his nose, blaming it on eating too many. Recently, Kang Yuling, however, is completely captivated by the beautiful woman. Then, he asks his young disciple what is so amazing about her. Kang Yuling enthusiastically praises the woman's enormous Erbai peaks, by stating, her 2 Erbai peaks are more amazing than the eldest sister and the second sister, causing the nearby elders to choke and spit out their tea in shock. Shen Shi shakes his head, lamenting the shallowness of the world, all while the elders glare at him, thinking he is just as bad. Soon after, his attention turns to the main event. According to his novel's plot, the protagonist, Xiaoqi, is about to make his grand debut. The final test is a perilous crossing over a chasm on a series of iron chains. A young boy with brown hair moves with incredible speed and agility, leaving the other hopefuls in the dust. Moments later, the sect patriarch notes with surprise that a truly promising seedling has emerged from this year's conference. The master of Danqing Peak is astounded by the boy's talent, stating that his affinity is unlike anything he has ever seen and his future is limitless. The elders buzz with excitement, with one suggesting such a gifted child should be taken under the patriarch's direct guidance. On the other side, the patriarch, however, remains calm, reminding them that they must first check the boy's spiritual root attributes to find the most suitable master. The patriarch states that, although I really want to take this child as a disciple, but I also need to see his spiritual root compatibility. Maybe there is a more suitable person than me among the elders and peak masters that can guide him. On the other hand, Shen Shi listens with amusement, knowing how this will play out. He thinks to himself, you can have fun for now. Let's see if you still take this good disciple later. Then, the patriarch sighs, revealing a hidden truth. The sect owes a debt to Shen Shi because none of the other masters were willing to accept his current disciples when they were chosen. Indeed, all 4 of his disciples were outliers and rejects. It was Shen Shi who took them in, saving the sect from the embarrassment of turning away recruits who had passed the tests. To repay this debt, the patriarch has decided, if there are other good seedlings, I will say something to help Shen Shi to accept 1 or 2 of them. Soon after, the patriarch, Ning Shenming, formally congratulates the new recruits, declaring them official disciples of the Shangding sect. The young, hopeful faces of the new generation stand ready for the next step of their journey. The patriarch explains that after their spiritual roots are tested, they will be assigned to a suitable master to guide their cultivation. Moments later, he begins to call the new disciples forward, one by one to a formation in the center of the stage. A girl is tested and revealed to have 3 spiritual roots: water, wood, and earth. She is offered a place at Danqing Peak. She happily accepts the offer, her path now set. On the other side, Dong Li warns Shen Shi, Master, if you are so inattentive, all the disciples with good qualifications will be taken away by the other elders and peak masters. But he nonchalantly replies, what is so great about it? I don't want to accept disciples at all. Is it not enough trouble for me to have a few of you? Kang Yuling pipes up, mentioning, I know, there are rumors in the sect that Master is a trash king who likes to take in trash disciples. He is not amused by the compliment, and thinks this is not a compliment. What are you so happy about? The next disciple reveals an incredibly pure wood spirit root, filling the arena with a vibrant green aura. Then, Shen Shi immediately recognizes her, Wei Qin, the protagonist's future first harem member, a foodie who is easily swayed by delicious treats. Thinking it a good opportunity, the patriarch offers the gifted girl to Shen Shi as a disciple. The other elders grumble amongst themselves, annoyed that such a prime candidate would be wasted on a cheap guy like Shen Shi. Soon after, Shen Shi declines the offer. Sticking to the plot, he suggests she be given to Taoist Bai Ran of Lingju Peak, who is her fated master. The master in question, Bai Ran, protests, stating that her own strength is too weak to mentor such a talented seedling. An elder agrees, pointing out her shallow cultivation and suggesting the matter be discussed further. Moments later, Bai Ran looks crestfallen, admitting that due to her low strength and status, she knows it is not her place to take such a disciple. Shen Shi intervenes with a powerful voice, declaring Bai Ran to be the most suitable teacher and challenging anyone to oppose him. The elder who had been arguing is immediately silenced by Shen Shi's overwhelming pressure. On the other side, Bai Ran looks at Shen Shi, stunned and grateful for his unexpected and powerful endorsement. He summons both Bai Ran and her new disciple, Wei Qin, to his side. Seeing the little girl's hungry expression, he offers her a small cake. Then, Bai Ran gives the girl a reassuring smile and encourages her to take it. As she nibbles on the cake, Shen Shi leans in and makes a strange request. You can eat my cakes, but in the future, you can't follow Shao Qi to kill me. The girl looks at him in confusion. Bai Ran offers her sincere thanks to Shen Shi for helping her. Soon after, he waves it off, saying he was merely speaking the truth. She is, after all, the most suitable teacher for Wei Qin. A smirk plays on his lips. The pieces are falling into place. The good show is finally here. The chapter ends as the announcer calls Shao Qi, the protagonist Shen Shi has been waiting for, onto the stage. Chapter 7 opens with Shao Qi as the final candidate, while the elders quietly speculate about what kind of talent he might have. Then, the patriarch of the Shangding sect, Ning Shenming, calls the young boy forward. Shao Qi steps up, greeting the immortal master with a respectful bow. The patriarch is pleased with the boy's calm demeanor and exceptional performance in the previous test, praising him and predicting a bright future for him. Soon after, Shao Qi steps into the center of the formation to have his spiritual roots tested. The other elders watch with keen anticipation, eager to see the results. Shen Shi, however, leans back with a smug look, knowing exactly what is about to happen. He thinks to himself, I'll see who still wants to take him as a disciple. Moments later, a brilliant orb of fire erupts from the formation, revealing Shao Qi's first spiritual root. The patriarch's eyes light up with joy. The fire attribute is exactly the same as me. The master of Danqing Peak sighs in resignation, knowing that no one would dare compete with the patriarch for a disciple with a pure fire root. On the other side, the patriarch strokes his beard, already planning to take the boy as his personal disciple. But then, a second orb appears, glowing with the green light of a wood spiritual root. He is a dual root cultivator. Bai Ran notes that while a fire and wood combination is good, It is not as desirable as a pure single root, but the surprises aren't over. Then, in an instant, a third orb of earth energy manifests. 3 spiritual roots are considered mediocre qualifications at best. The patriarch's excitement turns to disappointment. Alas, he sighs. What a pity. Shao Qi looks around, confused by the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Soon after, the test continues, revealing 2 more spiritual roots, metal and water. Shao Qi possesses all 5 elemental spiritual roots. An elder bursts out laughing, declaring the boy to be utter rubbish with no cultivation talent whatsoever. The initial awe turns to mockery and disgust from the crowd. Moments later, Shao Qi stands alone and humiliated, his earlier confidence completely shattered. The patriarch announces that despite his lack of talent, Shao Qi passed the entrance exam and must be given a chance. He asks if any master is willing to take him. All the peak masters and elders remain silent, their faces stern and unwilling. On the other side, an elder scoffs, saying that, what is the point of accepting such a waste with no cultivation talent? It will only add him as a laughing stock in the sect. The patriarch asks again, his gaze sweeping over the silent masters, but finds no takers. Shen Shi feels the weight of everyone's stare, knowing they're expecting him, the trash king, to take the trash disciple. He thinks, why don't you just say my name directly? Then, an elder objects, insisting that such an ordinary person should not be admitted into their prestigious sect. He argues that since Shao Qi has no talent for cultivation, he doesn't meet the requirements and can be excluded based on their own rules. Ignoring the protests, Shen Shi steps forward and speaks directly to the boy and states, what is your name, little one? Who flinches in surprise. Soon after, startled, the boy stammers out his name, Shao Qi. Seeing the boy on the verge of tears, Shen Shi admonishes him, why are you crying? A boy is going to be a man, and tears shouldn't be on a man's face. Shao Qi quickly wipes his tears, his spirit renewed by the unexpected words of encouragement. Moments later, Shen Shi looks him in the eye and asks the fateful question, so, will you become my disciple? Hope dawns on Shao Qi's face as he whispers, his voice filled with disbelief, I'm willing. Then, with all his might, he shouts his acceptance for the entire sect to hear, I'm willing. On the other side, Shen Shi smiles, telling his new disciple, good. You just have to believe in one thing, the world, sooner or later, will crawl under your feet. Overjoyed, Shao Qi prepares to give a formal bow to his new master. But Shen Shi has had enough of the boring conference. He turns and tells Shao Qi to follow him, leaving the stunned crowd behind. Then, as the boy follows him with a look of pure adoration, Shen Shi celebrates internally. Yes, this is the look. The protagonist's favorability level is directly full. By starting with the protagonist and other key characters on his side, he has successfully changed his own fate. He can finally live with peace of mind. He gives a triumphant thumbs up, leaving his new disciple completely bewildered by the strange gesture. As he enjoys saying, I the invincible villain master with my apprentices, the end with scattering flowers. Soon after, back at his residence, Shen Shi formally welcomes his new apprentice to Arbai Peak. He encourages the boy, telling him that despite the test results, he believes in his potential. Shao Qi, moved by his master's faith, promises not to let him down. Dongyue Li watches with a gentle smile, noting how her usually lazy master seems to have taken a real liking to his new little apprentice. Moments later, Shen Shi hands Shao Qi a qi gathering pill, explaining, this is a qi gathering pill with your current quality. Just take 1 qi gathering pill with water. First divide the pill into 10 portions and take 1 each time you cultivate. It will help you to cultivate. Dongyue Li grabs Shen Shi's hand in protest, stunned that he would give powerful pills to a brand new disciple, which could be dangerous. Shen Shi explains that for Shao Qi, whose pure body possesses a perfect spiritual affinity, the pill is not a risk but a necessary boost. On the other side, realizing her mistake, Dongyue Li immediately apologizes for speaking out of turn and asks for her punishment. He gently tells her he won't punish her, as she was only acting out of concern for her new junior brother. This only confuses her more. She asks why he hasn't punished her at all recently. Worried she has done something to completely disappoint him, he awkwardly brushes it off, saying she has been doing a good job. Then, Shao Qi listens to their strange exchange with a curious, puffed cheek expression. He finally interrupts, calling out to his master. Dongyue Li thinks, oh no, I forgot, junior brother is still here. Shen Shi, on the other hand, thinks saved, then asks Shao Qi, is there anything you want to say? Soon after, Shao Qi nervously makes a startling confession. Master, I'm actually a girl. My real name is Shao Qi. The chapter ends as Shen Shi completely freezes, his smile stuck on his face while the reveal leaves his mind blank. Chapter 8 opens as Qi sits close to Shen Shi and admits that she understands the theory, but still cannot find the right way to begin cultivating. Then, Qi, now dressed in girl's clothing and sitting comfortably on her master's lap, explains that while she understands the theory, she can't seem to find the right posture to begin. Shen Shi reassures her, don't worry, there is no rush in cultivation, and state that you can stop adjusting your posture now. Entering the body isn't supposed to be done like this. Cheer looks at her master with admiration, impressed that he wasn't surprised by her gender reveal, and assuming he saw through her disguise from the very beginning. Soon after, Shen Shi, playing it cool, comes up with a smooth excuse, saying he understood her need to dress as a man for safety during her perilous journey. Internally, however, he is having a complete meltdown. The male lead of his story is now a girl, throwing his entire harem plot into chaos. But a degenerate thought quickly follows. Perhaps a lowly motorcycle would be more comfortable to ride. He pulls out a book, explaining the fundamental problem for cultivators. Born with all 5 elements, their obstructed and interrupted spiritual energy circulation. Moments later, he tells Cheer that her first step, refining chi, is something she can't do on her own due to her 5 elemental roots. But he confidently assures her that he will help her solve this problem. He decides to start her training by teaching her the essential rules all cultivators must know. With an excited, "Okay," Cheer flies off with her new master. Elsewhere, in the residence's kitchen, Hansiener proudly announces that she has prepared 2 of their master's favorite dishes for dinner. On the other side, Dongyureli, lost in a blissful daydream, is certain their master will be overjoyed with the meal. Hansiener gives her a worried look, wondering why her eldest sister has been acting so strange lately. The disciples gather around the dinner table. Xuanyu mentions that she has alerted the master, and he should be arriving with Cheer soon. The delicious aroma of the food fills the room. Then, Kang Yuling's eyes go wide with excitement when she sees the main course, roasted crane. Xuanyu, however, looks on in absolute horror. She immediately confronts Hansiener, asking why she cooked the precious cranes that their master had specifically instructed them to care for. Hansiener just smiles innocently. Their argument is cut short as Shen Shi and Cheer appear at the doorway. Soon after, the 2 of them enter, looking cheerful and starved after a long day of training. Shen Shi thinks to himself that while he doesn't need to eat, he can never pass up Hansiener's excellent cooking. His eyes land on the roasted crane and he begins to drool. Unable to forget the delicious taste of the last one, his disciples watch, frozen in terror. Moments later, his blissful expression instantly turns to one of pure rage. "Fet, why are my precious cranes roasted, and it is 2 females as well?" Shen Shi is horrified. He had been raising those precious medicinal cranes with snowdrops, hoping they would lay valuable eggs, and now they have ended up on the dinner table. Shen Shi whirls around, his face contorted in fury as he screams, "Who is it?" On the other side, in an instant, all his disciples are on the floor, kowtowing and begging for forgiveness. He takes a moment, letting out a long sigh to calm his boiling anger. He stated, "Everyone, get up, don't be scared. I'll ask you guys once again, who did it?" As he scolds himself internally for losing control over mere external objects, recognizing that his original character's violent temper had briefly taken over. Then, Dongyureli, his eldest disciple, bravely tugs on his robe to get his attention. She takes full responsibility for the incident, confessing that she was the one who caught the cranes and allowed Shenner to cook them. She asks for her punishment. To emphasize her point, she firmly stomps on his foot. Soon after, with a heavy blush and trembling with anticipation, she pleads, "Please be sure to punish me severely." Shen Shi is left completely speechless by her bizarre request. What the hell? He finds himself in a very strange predicament. He knows he has to punish her to maintain order, but her eagerness is making the situation incredibly awkward. Moments later, Cheer innocently overhears the exchange and asks whether elder sister needs to be disciplined for making such a huge mistake. A light bulb goes off in Shen Shi's head. A public scolding would protect his authority without being cruel, and it would still preserve his image as a good master. He orders a trembling, but compliant Dongyureli to come forward. On the other side, when he tells her to lie down, she readily agrees with an ecstatic yes. As she assumes the position, even the innocent Shen Shi seems a bit taken aback by the scene. Shen Shi is momentarily stunned by the difference in physique between his eldest disciple and his new lowly protagonist. Then, he forces himself to regain his composure. "I must stay composed," he thinks. "I must not lose control. If not, my image as a good master will be destroyed." He administers the first smack, and she lets out a cry of pleasure, complete with floating hearts. Soon after, he sternly declares that as the eldest, she has failed to set a proper example, and her punishment will serve as a warning to the others. The punishment continues, accompanied by a chorus of increasingly delighted yelps. To the complete bafflement of her junior sisters, Dongyureli begins to beg for more, asking him to punish her more cruelly. Moments later, finally, the bizarre ordeal is over. Shen Shi is panting from the effort while Dongyureli lies flushed and satisfied. It all clicks into place for Shen Shi. He finally understands. Dongyureli is a masochist. This explains why she was so loyal to the original, abusive Shen Shi in his novel. He groans, realizing this must be heaven's twisted way of filling his plot holes. Completely exasperated, he declares he is not eating anymore and tells them to share the crane before flying off, leaving his very confused disciples behind. As he complains internally, This heaven really knows how to screw around. On the other side, Dong Yurli's sisters rush to Dong Yurli's side, worriedly asking if she is alright. She weakly tells them she is fine and beckons for Xuanyu to come closer. She whispers a secret and very specific request into Xuanyu's ear. Then, a blushing Xuanyu dashes off, shouting that she'll be right back, leaving the others completely in the dark. Cheer looks on as Dong Yurli winks at her, a satisfied and mischievous look on her face. The chapter ends with Cheer giggling, thoroughly amused by the eccentricities of her new family. Chapter 9 picks up after a long and eventful day. Shen Shi tries to relax with a hot bath. Then, he reflects on his eldest disciple, Dong Yurli. While she manages to keep her masochistic tendencies in check around her sisters, she is becoming increasingly bold and private. His peaceful soak is interrupted by a voice calling his name, causing him to jump in surprise. It is Yulili, standing in his room wrapped only in a towel. He exasperatedly reminds her that he doesn't need any help bathing. Soon after, ignoring his protests, she offers to wash his back, claiming it is the least she can do for her hardworking master. She then tries to leap into the tub with him, causing a huge splash as he desperately tries to fend her off. After somehow stopping her, he finds her kneeling by his tub, looking at him with a coy and submissive expression. Moments later, completely flustered, he orders her, "Enough. I already said you don't need to help, so quickly get out." Instead of obeying, she defiantly hops back into his bath, splashing water everywhere with a mischievous grin, stating, "What you want me to do, I just won't do it." She teases him, asking if she deserves to be punished for her disobedience, clearly hoping for another session. On the other side, Shen Shi is at his breaking point, wondering how he ended up with such a disciple and how any normal person could possibly handle her. A degenerate thought crosses his mind. If his original novel had been this spicy, would it have gotten more views? He blushes, completely overwhelmed by Dong Yurli's charm. Then, in an instant, they are interrupted by a third person. It is Xiaoqier, innocently claiming, "Master, Q-Tier has a question she doesn't understand, so she is here for advice." Yurli panics at being caught while Shen Shi struggles to maintain a calm face, stating, "Haha, what do you do?" In a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, he orders Yurli to go and hide in the closet. Soon after, Yurli complies, requesting him, "Yes, I'll hide now. Master, please don't say that I've been here." A loud crash from the closet confirms that stealth is not one of her virtues. Worried she'll catch a cold, Shen Shi quickly uses his magic to dry the spilled water from the floor and from Yurli's body inside the closet. Moments later, just as he finishes cleaning up, Cheer bursts into the room with boundless energy. Shen Shi's bath is complete. He asks, "Crare, it is already so late. What are you here for?" Xiaoqier looked around, finding something internally. She explains she came for advice on cultivation. Shen Shi, eager to get her out of the room, tells her she doesn't need to focus on complex theories just yet. On the other side, Cheer gives a mischievous wink, her eyes darting towards the closet. Shen Shi grows nervous, suspecting that his innocent disciple knows exactly what is going on. Meanwhile, inside the hot and cramped closet, Dong Yurli struggles by hot temperature, as Xiaoqier explains to Shen Shi the slow need to start early. "My talent is the worst so naturally. I have to work harder. I initially wanted to ask senior sister, but I can't seem to find her anywhere." Then, Shen Shi asks, "Then what do you not understand?" Cheer suddenly changes the subject, offering to pour her master a cup of tea. The closet stands silently in the corner of the room. Yurli continues to struggle in the dark, hot space, growing increasingly flustered. Soon after, she clutches one of her master's robes, clearly getting carried away by her admiration for him. The fear of being discovered by Cheer mixes with the thrill of the situation. Overwhelmed by the scent and the heat, her excitement begins to reach its peak. Moments later, the noises from the closet finally become too many to ignore, and Shen Shi wonders in shock, "Dong Yurli, what exactly are you doing?" "Dong Yurli," Xiaoqier completed, making the tea and proudly stated, "Master, the tea is ready." With perfect timing, Cheer pretends to trip, sending a full cup of tea flying towards Shen Shi. She lets out a dramatic cry as she tumbles through the air. On the other side, her plan is simple: get his clothes wet, then offer to fetch him a new set from the closet, exposing the person hiding inside. Shen Shi is caught by surprise by the sudden aerial assault of tea. However, he reacts with incredible speed, catching both Cheer and the teacup before a single drop can spill on him. Then, holding her steady, he calmly tells her to be more careful. Undeterred, Cheer puts on a masterful performance, apologizing for her clumsiness, and still insisting on getting him a change of clothes from the closet. Shen Shi smiles to himself. He knows she did it on purpose, but is amused by her cunning attempt. Soon after, Cheer looks up at him, caught in his arms, her plan completely foiled. Defeated for now, she obediently agrees to follow his orders, stating cutely, "Yes, I'll obey Master's orders. Master is the best." Shen Shi internally dismisses her behavior, still believing she is too young to understand the true implications of her actions. Moments later, Cheer finally bids him goodnight and leaves the room. Shen Shi is completely drained, An hour of dealing with his manipulative little protagonist has left him more exhausted than a full day of fighting. Finally alone, his attention turns back to the closet, hoping his eldest disciple is still in one piece after her long confinement. On the other side, he opens the door with a worried expression. He finds Yueli inside, looking flushed and disheveled, clutching one of his robes to her chest as if it were a precious treasure. He warns her that being locked in the closet is a light punishment, and the next time she won't get off so easily. Then, this of course, is exactly what she wants to hear. She eagerly asks what other punishments he has in store, suggesting a variety of kinky activities from whipping to wax play. Man, I like her. Ignoring her, he tells her to get changed and not set a bad example for her junior sisters. Thoroughly stressed out by his increasingly dangerous disciples, Shen Shi decides he needs a vacation. This place is too dangerous, he thinks. I won't survive the next trial if I stay here. Soon after, he informs Yueli of his decision to leave the mountain for a while and gives her instructions to prepare for his trip and to ensure the others continue their training for the upcoming sect trials. Yueli wonders, Master, why do you suddenly want to leave the mountain? He tells her he is going to look for something, but his real goal is to secure the protagonist's other hidden power-ups before the plot can derail any further. The next day, outside the sect's walls, the chapter ends as Shen Shi sets out in plain clothes, relieved to leave the sect for the first time since arriving in this world. Chapter 10 opens on a winding mountain road where a well-guarded caravan moves through the wilderness. Then, the guard commander approaches the main carriage, suggesting they stop to rest at a nearby stream. A gentle voice from inside agrees, instructing Commander Gao to let everyone rest, acknowledging their long and tiring journey. The guards halt, their weary but watchful eyes scanning the surroundings as they prepare to make camp. Then, in an instant, an incredibly delicious aroma wafts through the air, catching the guards' attention and even making them drool. The source of the heavenly smell is none other than Shen Shi, who is expertly grilling cumin lamb kebabs over a charcoal fire. He adds the finishing touches with the flair of a master chef, pouring his heart and soul into his cooking. Moments later, the guards spot the source of the aroma and are mesmerized by the sight of the perfectly grilled lamb kebabs. Shen Shi proudly states, "It is lamb kebab." An elder from the caravan observes Shen Shi and confidently assures the commander that the young man is not a cultivator. Commander Gao, now called Uncle Gao, is handed a golden leaf, a clear sign that his master wishes to trade for some of the delicious food. On the other side, Shen Shi, while enjoying a skewer, discreetly assesses the approaching group. He senses only one cultivator among them, a weak and exhausted one at the foundation building stage, posing no threat. The guard commander, Gao Sheng, approaches Shen Shi with a friendly smile, introducing himself and his affiliation. Shen Shi, still chewing on his kebab, cautiously asks what he can do for the commander. Then, impressed by his cooking, Gao Sheng offers a valuable gold leaf in exchange for just a few skewers of his lamb. Shen Shi generously waves off the payment, saying it is too many for just 3 skewers. He invites them to take as much as they want, since he can't eat it all himself. Gao Sheng is delighted by the young man's kindness and gratefully accepts the offer on behalf of his hungry men. Soon after, as night falls, the guards and Shen Shi share a meal and conversation around the warmth of the campfire. Feeling refreshed after the meal and rest, Shen Shi stretches and gets ready to continue his journey. Just as he is about to leave, 2 beautiful women from the carriage approach him, calling out to him. Moments later, Shen Shi finds himself blushing at their beauty, internally wondering if the stunning pair are sisters or perhaps a mother and daughter. His admiration is quickly replaced by annoyance when they address him as little brother. "Who are you calling little?" he grumbles. His indignant reaction causes the younger of the 2 women to giggle, amused by his pride. On the other side, the older woman introduces herself as Loshasha of Muling Castle and her daughter, Yuding. Complimenting his cooking, she politely asks for his name, wary of revealing his true identity. Shen Shi gives them a fake Taoist name, Jingzi, claiming cultivators don't reveal their real names. Luo Shasha replies, "So you're a cultivator. I apologize if I'd been rude." She immediately sees through his lie, recognizing that Jing is not a known seniority marker for Taoist names. She finds his cautious nature amusing. Then, changing the subject, she asks the young cultivator where he might be rushing off to. Sensing he is getting entangled, Shen Shi tries to make a quick exit, politely stating that he'll be leaving now. His awkward attempt to run away only makes the daughter laugh harder at his expense, while the mother is confused. Soon after changing tactics, he decides to be bold. He reveals his destination is Duanli Mountain and shamelessly asks if they can give him a ride. Luo Shasha, with a warm smile, agrees to his request, provided he doesn't mind traveling with them. But why is the mother-daughter duo blushing? And so, Shen Shi joins their caravan. They set up camp for the night by a peaceful stream. Moments later, inside their tent, Yuding questions her mother's decision, reminding her that their elder had determined the young man wasn't a cultivator. Lushasha explains that despite the elder's assessment, she couldn't see through the young man at all. This mystery, she believes, means he must be an extraordinary person, and there is no harm in bringing him along. Furthermore, his destination is the infamous Duanli Mountain, a place filled with demonic beasts from which no one has ever returned. The fact that he dares to go there alone is proof of his confidence and strength. On the other side, Yuding confesses her fear of being separated from her mother if she joins the Yuhua sect, hoping that if this young man is a powerful expert, he can help them. Luoshasha replies, "Silly child, I don't want to be separated from you either. But there is no such thing as having your own wishes fulfilled, is there?" Yuding even goes as far as to say she would marry him if he is strong enough, hoping such an alliance would protect their vulnerable Muling castle. Miles away, Shen Shi lets out a sudden sneeze, getting the distinct feeling that someone is talking about him. Then, Commander Gao, showing kindness once again, offers Shen Shi his tent for the night so he can rest properly. Shen Shi politely declines, claiming he doesn't sleep. He then steers the conversation, asking why their group is traveling to Yuhua Mountain. Gao Sheng begins to tell the sad story of Muling Castle. Once a great sect respected by all, it lost its greatest protection when its powerful ancestor passed away. Soon after, for years, the madam has single-handedly protected the castle from hostile forces. Their journey to Yuhua Mountain is a desperate attempt to secure a future for the young miss by having her join the great immortal sect located there. Shen Shi's interest is piqued. He recognizes the name, the Yuhua sect. He recalls the beautiful and bold red-haired woman from the conference, realizing she belongs to that same, really big sect. Moments later, curious, Shen Shi asks Gao Sheng about his own master. Gao Sheng answers, the master died young. At that time, the madam had not arrived yet. They hadn't even met and they were already separated from each other forever. The young miss is a child that the madam adopted, a fact which is well known around Jianggu. Shen Shi puts the pieces together. So they're a beautiful pair of mother and daughter who have to carry their own family business. And they're all untouched virgins. Even if you don't want to attract jackals, they'll still come. I've stepped into muddy water. Then he states, knowing what is coming, Brother Gao, quickly wake everyone up. We need to fight. On the other side, the commander is taken aback by the sudden urgent warning. Shen Shi's expression is grim as he informs him that a large group of enemies, including several cultivators, is just 300 paces away and closing in fast. Without hesitation, Gao Sheng leaps into action, rousing his men and ordering them to prepare for an imminent attack. The chapter ends as the camp springs to life, and Shen Shi decides that, since fate has pulled him into this mess, he might as well help. Chapter 11 opens under the cover of darkness. The ambush begins. Then, Luoshasha, the madam of Muling Castle, stands firm, encouraging her men by pointing out the enemy's cowardice in choosing an ambush over a direct confrontation. She calls out to the young cultivator, Shen Shi, and her daughter, pulling them behind her for protection. Shen Shi is touched by her selfless act, impressed that she would risk her life to protect a stranger she just met. Soon after, he glances at the frightened Yuding, her fear evident in her eyes. Moved by their plight and a sense of shared destiny, he makes a decision. He will protect them both. He knows the mortal guards are outmatched. The real fight will begin when the enemy cultivators make their move. Moments later, just as he predicted, a powerful attack streaks through the night sky towards their position. The caravan's hired cultivator, Elder Bai, scoffs at the incoming attack, underestimating the enemy. He leaps onto the carriage and unleashes his own spiritual energy to counter the assault. On the other side, his attack successfully intercepts the fiery projectile, deflecting it just in time. Relieved, Luoshasha gratefully thanks Elder Bai for his timely intervention, but their relief is short-lived as the enemy unleashes a massive volley of enchanted arrows. Then, Elder Bai quickly erects a golden barrier, protecting the carriage from the deadly barrage. He then goes on the offensive, sending out powerful blasts of energy to thin the enemy's ranks. His attacks cleave through the trees, and the attackers hiding within them. Soon after, however, a far more powerful enemy emerges from the shadows, mocking the Elder for his meager foundation, building realm cultivation. Elder Bai prepared to attack again, gathering his energy. Elder Bai stares in shock, realizing this mysterious new foe completely outmatches him. Asks, "Who are you?" Moments later, the enemy state, "It doesn't matter who I am. You're just a hired cultivator, so there is no need to fight for your life for an errand. As long as you don't do anything next, I'll spare your life." The true leader of the ambush finally reveals himself, a lecherous man who clearly has a history with Luoshasha. Luoshasha's face hardens as she recognizes him as Lai Sai. She immediately accuses him of orchestrating the attack to seize her family's estate. On the other side, Lai Sai laughs maniacally, confirming her suspicions but adding that his true prize is not just the estate, but her as well. Luoshasha stares at Elder Bai, hoping he can save them. He shakes his head in defeat, admitting to himself that he is no match for the powerful cultivator leading the attack. Then, seeing the hired help back down, Shen Shi decides it is time for him to step in. But before he can act, Luoshasha stops him, stating, "Young cultivator, don't move." She tells him that since he was dragged into their mess, he should flee when he gets the chance, not wanting him to sacrifice himself for them. Soon after, in a desperate act of sacrifice, she offers to surrender herself and her castle to Lei Sai, on the sole condition that he allows her daughter and Shen Shi to go free. Lei Kai lets out a sinister laugh, clearly amused by her proposal. His greedy gaze shifts to Yuding, as he brings up the rumors about her famous beauty. Moments later, now that he has seen her for himself, he cruelly declares that he has no intention of letting such a prize escape. Shamed by Luo Shasha's bravery, Elder Bai decides to make one final stand. Knowing his time is running out, he unleashes a sword attack on the enemy leader. On the other side, the masked man throws golden rope of energy to capture Elder Bai. The spell binds Elder Bai, wrapping itself tightly around the Elder and rendering him completely helpless. Elder Bai's sword attack was about to reach the enemy leader as he screamed for help. Then, the masked cultivator cracks his knuckles, annoyed stare at their leader, and paper to protect their leader Lei Sai. He performs a powerful earth-style technique and saves Lei Sai just in time. Lei Kai was in shock after being saved from the brink of death. Soon after, he pulls the sword from the wall, examining it with a mix of shock and anger. He broke the sword, furious at his near-death experience. He turns his rage on Lu Shasha's guards. Elder Bai can only watch, sighing in despair as all hope seems lost. Moments later, just then, Luo Shasha discreetly passes a golden seal to Shen Shi from behind her back. But instead of taking the seal, Shen Shi gently takes her hand, reassuring her with a calm and confident, "I'm here." He smoothly puts his arm around her waist, dropping his little brother act, and revealing a more mature and powerful side. On the other side, he then pulls Stun Yuding to his other side, confidently standing between the two beauties and the approaching danger. The villain Lei Sai looks on with a mixture of confusion and rage, wondering where this new challenger came from. Shen Shi drops all pretense of being a harmless traveler. His eyes turn cold, and an intimidating aura begins to emanate from him. Then, Shen Shi unleashed his power, shaking the environment as a black-purple energy was released from him. Then, in an instant, Lei Sai collapses to his knees, crushed by an invisible and overwhelming spiritual pressure. The masked man, enemy leader, hired cultivator, internally thinks, shite. What kind of cultivation is this? Even my master can't compare with this person's cultivation. And bade Shen Shi Sr., spare me. Soon after, Shen Shi fully unleashes his nascent soul stage aura, a suffocating pressure that brings the entire battlefield to a standstill. Yuding, who has faced danger her whole life, has never felt safer. She realizes that the odd young man they picked up is a true, unparalleled expert. The chapter ends as Lu Shasha finally lets go of the heavy burden she has carried and allows herself to rely on Shen Shi. Chapter 12 picks up after the battle. Lu Shasha, her daughter, and the remaining guards bow respectfully to Shen Shi, thanking him for his timely intervention. Then, Shen Shi playfully scoffs at being called "my lord," finding the title a bit too formal for his taste. Luo Shasha gracefully corrects herself, addressing him as young master instead. That way of addressing is a little interesting, but never mind. Next up, with the pleasantries out of the way, Shen Shi turns his attention to the captured enemies, who are now kneeling and begging for their lives. Soon after, the masked cultivator Fang Daiquan begged for his life, stating, "Senior, please spare me. This one is called Fang Daiquan, and my master is Fang Dangshan, an outer elder from Diqing sect. When this junior returns to his sect, this junior will definitely hand over his treasures. That guy and I have nothing to do with each other, so please spare my life." Lai Kai is enraged by this treachery, reminding his subordinate that he had been given a precious spirit gathering green lotus seed as a sign of trust. Fang Daiquan furiously denies ever receiving such an item, realizing he has been played for a fool. Moments later, in a fit of rage, he lunges at his treacherous boss, seeking vengeance. Lai Kasi is caught completely off guard by the sudden attack from his own man. When Fang Daiquan's sword was about to attack Lei Sai, another attack from Shen Shi broke the sword and saved Lei Sai. On the other side, however, that leaves Fang Daiquan grievously wounded. He collapses to the ground, coughing up blood and struggling to stay conscious. But his ordeal is not over. Shen Shi appears before him, his sword glowing with power, and coldly asks, "Did I say you could move?" Then, the cultivator is horrified, his own sword having been shattered by Shen Shi's earlier, casual attack. Shen Shi internally thinks the jade bamboo sword is my signature sword, so I can't show it. This Blue Lake sword deserves to be called my hidden trump card, although it is only profound grade. In this beginner map, where there aren't many spirit grade treasures, it can be used for everything. His thoughts continue to flow. At that time, if the group of people in the novel hadn't jumped out to block the sword for Xiao Qi, I would have easily killed him. How unexpected, right? That a boss like me is now wandering about. You all should be afraid. Soon after, Fang Daiquan desperately pleads for his life, insisting he was framed about the lotus seed. Deciding to lean into his villain act, Shen Shi gives the remaining cultivators 20 breaths to find the lotus seed. Whoever hands it over first will be spared. Fang Daiquan realizes only one side may be spared, so he releases his killing intent and prepares to sacrifice Lekitai to save himself. Moments later, Fang Daquan moves in to finish Laisai, but the situation is already slipping out of his control. Fang Daquan is struck by a storm of arrows, cutting off his attack before it can land. It is Laisai who attacks before Fang Daquan can attack. On the other side, Laisai presents Green Lotus Seed to Shen Shi, believing he has won his freedom. Shen Shi calmly reminds him that there are still 5 breaths left on the timer, his smile holding a sinister edge. The man is suddenly stabbed through the chest from behind. Then, the attacker reveals himself to be Fang Daquan, who had faked his death. He mocks the dying Leitrai's naivety. Then Fang Daquan kneels before Shen Shi and offers the Green Lotus to him. Shen Shi states, "Yes, good. As agreed, I won't kill you," as he expresses his gratitude for being allowed to live. Soon after, Elder Bai appears behind him and swiftly executes him, ensuring no enemies are left alive. Lu Shasha apologizes for the Elder's actions, but Shen Shi is unfazed. He coolly states that since he is helping them, he is not going to be picky about the details. Elder Bai, now humbled, presents Shen Shi with the binding treasure he recovered from the fallen cultivator. Moments later, Shen Shi recognizes it as an earth-binding lock, a powerful spirit-grade artifact. In a display of incredible power and generosity, he removes the previous owner's seals from the treasure and gifts it to the astonished Elder. The Elder is overwhelmed, insisting the treasure is too valuable for him to accept. On the other side, Shen Shi simply states that he has fulfilled his part of their fated encounter and prepares to leave once again. He strikes a dramatic pose, enjoying his moment as a legendary and mysterious top expert. But Yuding, completely smitten, calls out for him to wait. Then, both mother and daughter insist he travel with them, wanting to thank him properly for saving their lives. Shen Shi gives them a deadpan look, pretending to be annoyed by their persistence, but on the inside, he is ecstatic, readily agreeing to the prospect of traveling with 2 beautiful women. Soon after, the caravan continues its journey, now with Shen Shi comfortably situated in the main carriage. Inside, the atmosphere is a little tense as Yuding blushes, shyly addressing the young master. Her mother also seems flustered by their handsome and powerful new traveling companion. Moments later, Yuding offers him a piece of fruit, which he accepts with a charming smile, commenting on its sweetness. Curious about their plans, Shen Shi asks about their intention to send Yuding to the Yuhua sect. Luo Shasha confirms their plan, explaining that Elder Bai believes her daughter has the talent to succeed there. On the other side, Yuding pouts, saying that at 14 she is practically an adult. Shen Shi can't help but agree, his eyes lingering on her surprisingly mature figure, as Shen Shi lust over her. Her S are too big for a 14-year-old. Shen Shi states Elder Bai is only a casual cultivator, so he only knows one thing and doesn't know the other. Even though the Yuhua sect is a sect dominated by female cultivators and Send Ing, Yuding there would have seemed safer, but what they practice is the dual cultivation method. After hearing it, Luo Shasha is in shock and blushes. Then, the innocent Yuding asks for an explanation, but Shen Shi deflects, saying he'll tell her when she is older. Instead, he offers to test her aptitude. Yuding agrees. Shen Shi places a finger on her forehead, and a warm glowing energy flows into her body, as she internally thinks something warm is coming in. The sensation is overwhelming, making her feel hot but also incredibly comfortable and relaxed. Her thoughts continue, my body feels hot but also very comfortable. As she whispers, young master. Soon after, Shen Shi asks Yuding, don't move around, it'll be over soon. Lo Shasha watches with a heavy blush, understanding the intimate nature of the energy transfer. Overcome by the pleasurable sensation, Yuding's body goes limp. Shen Shi catches her body resting in his lap as he completes the examination. The chapter ends with Shen Shi looking down at the unconscious Yuding. Her rare empty spiritual root is an incredible discovery, but he forces himself to stay focused and respectful. Chapter 13 opens as Shen Shi looks down at the unconscious Yuding and realizes she possesses the legendary empty spiritual root. Then, he knows that while the 5 elemental roots condemn a person to mortality, the empty spiritual root is the constitution of a true immortal, born with limitless potential and no bottlenecks in cultivation. However, this incredible gift comes with a terrible curse. Because the root has no attributes, she cannot wield spiritual power for combat, only use it to strengthen her body. In the cruel world of cultivation, those with this constitution have only one fate: to become a cauldron, a living battery for powerful cultivators to use and discard in their own pursuit of a higher realm. It is a treasure that drives people to madness and greed. Soon after, Yuding slowly comes to, her eyes fluttering open as she asks the young master about her aptitude. With a greedy smile that he can't quite hide, Shen Shi tells her she has excellent talent and impulsively asks if she would like to become his disciple. She stares at him, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief at the sudden, incredible offer. Moments later, without a moment's hesitation, she beams with joy and enthusiastically accepts. Now that she is his disciple, Shen Shi decides it is time to lay down some very important ground rules for her own safety. He gives her strict commands, First, I will teach you to cultivate, but you absolutely must not reveal your identity as a cultivator. You also cannot reveal your cultivation to outsiders. Second, I will not constantly teach you. You will need to learn on your own many times, but I will help you set your cultivation benchmarks. Third, no matter what problems you encounter, you can call me at any time. I will give you a messenger stone and you can contact me if you activate it. I will aid you as soon as possible. Do you understand? On the other side, the young girl, her heart filled with gratitude and loyalty, obediently agrees to all of his terms. Shen Shi pats her head, feeling a sense of satisfaction. Having a normal, cute, and obedient disciple like Yuding is a refreshing change of pace. He can't help but compare her to his chaotic disciples back at the sect, a masochist, a schemer, a giant baby, and a protagonist, and wonders how he is supposed to cultivate with them around. Then, he turns to Luo Shasha and sternly warns her of the danger Yuding's special constitution presents, emphasizing that her cultivation must be kept an absolute secret to protect her and their family. Lu Shasha's face pales as she understands the grave implications of her daughter's incredible but perilous gift. Shen Shi reassures her, "Don't worry, I'll take care of everything, and I will help you with another insurance." Soon after, he then seeks out the caravan's hired elder Bai Jishui, who is meditating in his carriage. Shen Shi approaches the elder. Elder Bai Jishui asks, "Senior, I wonder what guidance you can give me." Shen Shi offers a deal. Your cultivation technique is incomplete, so it consumes your life. Although foundation building cultivators can live for 200 years. I am afraid your time is running out now. Let us make a deal. Moments later, Elder Bai Jishui humbly replies, "Nothing can be hidden from this senior's eyes. Is there anything I need to do?" Shen Shi presents a Yuanling pill and explains, "This is a Yuanling pill. In addition to the spiritual energy and vitality contained in it, you should be able to increase your life by 10 years if you take it for the first time." Shen Shi continues his explanation. "I will then help you complete your technique. If you spend 10 years cultivating hard, it is possible to break through to the late stage of foundation building. This way, you can live another 100 years. The elder gets stunned by this incredible offer. On the other side, overwhelmed by this offer of a new life, the elder bows deeply, pledging his unwavering loyalty to Shen Shi. Shen Shi accepts his pledge and gives him his mission. For the next 10 years, he is to become the sworn protector of Muling Castle. With her family's safety now secured, Lo Shasha expresses her relief to Yuding, overjoyed that she won't have to be separated from her daughter. Then, Yuding, however, has other ideas. She cheekily reminds her mother of stories she used to tell, where master-disciple pairs and even siblings in sects could become cultivation couples. Luo Shasha is completely flustered by her daughter's bold and inappropriate line of thinking, scolding her for having such thoughts. As someone cough, it is Shen Shi. Their conversation is awkwardly interrupted by Shen Shi, who has reappeared without a sound. Soon after, both mother and daughter jump in surprise, blushing at having been caught in their intimate conversation. Shen Shi sighs internally, lamenting how his attempts to gather disciples feel more like he is accidentally building a harem. He informs them that Bai Jishui has agreed to his deal, ensuring Muling Castle will be well protected for the foreseeable future. Moments later, Lu Shasha is astounded, wondering Elder Bai is a cultivator in the foundation building realm. Asking him to come down the mountain took a lot of effort. Her thoughts continue, but now, Elder Bai so easily agreed to be our protector. Just how strong is this young master exactly? With their business concluded, he tells them, "No need to go to the Yuhua sect anymore, so you guys should go back now. I will make a trip to Muling Castle in person later." Yuding looks at him with sad, puppy dog eyes, not wanting him to leave so soon. On the other side, he smiles and tells her his current appearance is a disguise, but promises to show her his real face before he goes. In a swirl of spiritual energy, his disguise melts away, revealing his true, handsome form. He passes his cultivation technique to his new disciple, telling her to practice well and that he will see her again soon. Then, the mother and daughter are left completely breathless, stunned by his incredible good looks. Shen Shi flies off, leaving the two women behind as he continues his journey. Realizing he has spent too many time on this detour, he resolves to hurry to his destination. Soon after, he estimates he can reach Duanli Mountain in 2 days. Ready to secure the next piece of his plan, he put on his disguise again. Duanli Mountain is a dangerous, uninhabited land, home to a powerful Qinglin poisonous toad with strength equivalent to a nascent soul cultivator. The mountain also holds Shen Shi's prize, a 5-element tree whose fruit is guarded by the toad. This fruit can enhance spiritual roots or allow a demonic beast to take human form. Moments later, as expected, the massive toad is patiently waiting at the base of the tree for the fruit to ripen. Shen Shi isn't after the fruit, but the 5-element stone buried beneath the tree, which is the key to solving Cheer's cultivation problem. He decides to wait for the lazy toad to leave rather than engaging in a pointless fight. On the first day, both Shen Shi and the toad wait patiently, a silent standoff between man and beast. On the other side, the second day passes in much the same way, with neither making a move. After an unknown number of days, both Shen Shi and the toad have succumbed to laziness, napping in the sun. Shen Shi wakes up in a fit of frustration, Realizing the toad is just as lazy as he is and has no intention of moving, he considers just killing it. Then, he quickly dismisses the idea, believing that brute force is beneath a man of his intellect and dignity. Then, in an instant, he has a brilliant idea. Remembering his own specialty is illusion arts, he decides to play to the toad's lazy nature, assuming they have similar tastes. Another toad lets out a bored croak. The main toad, completely unaware of the scheme being hatched nearby, opens its eyes. The chapter ends as Shen Shi creates an illusion of a charming pink toad, instantly luring the lazy beast away from its post. Chapter 14 opens as the giant lazy toad is suddenly startled out of its stupor. Then, before it stands the most beautiful, alluring pink frog it has ever seen. It is love at first sight. The toad, completely smitten, abandons its post and hops after the illusionary beauty. From his hiding spot, Shen Shi celebrates the success of his plan. Pleased with his cleverness, he remarks that the toad is a simple creature of instinct, and his backup plans of using poisons and laxatives won't be necessary. Soon after, Shen Shi watches the toad chase the illusion with a mischievous grin, hoping the distraction will last long enough for his plan to work. But his victory is cut short. A powerful force erupts from the sky, causing him to look up in shock as that person screams, "Demonic beast, watch this!" And that is how Shen Shi plans ruin. Both the toad and Shen Shi are stunned by this sudden scream. Moments later, realizing it has been tricked, the toad turns its fury on the only other person around, Shen Shi. It unleashes a massive cloud of noxious purple gas, screaming curses at the human who dared to fool it. Unfazed, Shen Shi calmly summons his sword from a nearby stream, ready for a fight. On the other side, with a smirk, he holds his sword at the ready, asking the beast why it is so angry. He unleashes a powerful blast of water energy, his stepping waves technique, which easily dissipates the poison cloud. The toad is stunned. Only a mere golden core stage. You don't know you're... Then, Shen Shi attacks again, and knocks it flying. The massive beast crashes, making a hole of it is shape. Trembling, the toad can't believe impossible. Are the human cultivators now all this strong? Soon after, someone attacks and scream continuously, stepping wave, and stepping wave, spam it. Shen Shi, annoyed internally, thinks, who the hell is that douchebag that ruined my chance, screaming and shouting within 10 miles? Are you scared that your ambush will succeed or what? As some kinda spiritual figure appeared behind him in the sky. The toad, completely stunned and terrified by the sudden figure, talks to itself, such a strong pressure. If that golden core stage cultivator just now was already that strong, then this attack from the nascent soul stage will flatten me along with the mountain. Moments later, it is attack as it states, no matter, if I'm going to die anyway, I'll die with dignity. Both the toad attack and the lotus figure are about to clash. The two incredible techniques collide in a massive explosion, canceling each other out. On the other side, Shen Shi is left completely bewildered, wondering what on earth just happened to the immensely powerful attack. The person who created the lotus figure appears as she states, to be able to break my Samadhi fire lotus. You've got skills, demonic beast, she continued. But that won't stop me from taking away the 5-element fruit today. Then, Shen Shi internally thinks so it is her, Yu Wushuang, the genius from Taiyun Immortal Sect, and also the sect leader's daughter. The toad, wonder, so human cultivators are still the same. Looks like I was mistaken just now. It is struck again, this time by a series of water blades. Meanwhile, Yu Wushuang is preparing to rejoin the fray. Yu Wushuang unleashed her attack, scorching phoenix cry. As an energy fire phoenix appeared, she unleashes her fire phoenix and dodges the toad attack. Moments later, the toad defiantly croaks at her. Croak, you're scared now, huh? How dare you try to steal my treasure? With extreme arrogance, she dismisses the toad. Humph. Why would I use the fire phoenix to deal with you? She continues as she attacks herself, when I can do it by myself. On the other side, Shen Shi is exasperated. Then why did you waste energy summoning the phoenix? Just for show. Her attack is easily blocked by the toad, who counters with a blast of blue energy. Yu Wushuang attacks with another technique. Then, Yu Wushuang stares in shock. She barely manages, that was close. My clothes almost got dirtied. Shen Shi facepalms, unable to watch what he considers the most brain-damaging battle he has ever witnessed. Soon after, the toad gloats, having successfully enveloped the arrogant human in its poison gas. Yu Wushuang coughs, enraged at the toad's despicable use of poison. She immediately realizes she is in serious trouble as the poison begins to take effect. Moments later, the toad laughs maniacally, explaining that if you are poisoned by my Qinglin poison, even if you are a god transformation cultivator, your strength will be greatly reduced for a certain time. With its opponent weakened, the toad launches its long, sticky tongue, aiming to finish her off. She is caught, helpless, as the toad gloats about the delicious meal a nascent soul cultivator will make. On the other side, just in the nick of time, Shen Shi intervenes, using his stepping wave. The toad is furious, screaming, again. I'm not scared of you anymore. I was only careless just now, as the attack hit him. Its bravado is short-lived as the attack slams into it, sending it crashing into the cliff once more. Then, the toad accuses Shen Shi bastard, how dare you ambush me? Where are your martial values? It gathers all its remaining energy and unleashes its ultimate attack, a concentrated Qinglin poison gas blast. Shen Shi once again uses his stepping waves technique, but this time to shield the poisoned and vulnerable Yu Wushuang from the blast. Soon after, the toad is at its wit's end. You motherfucker, do you only know that one move? Shen Shi calmly replies, no. The chapter ends with Shen Shi revealing the truth. The earlier attacks were illusions, and this time he is using the real stepping wave. Chapter 15 opens as Shen Shi ends the chaotic battle with his true power, unleashing a massive wave of water energy through stepping wave. Then, he directs the attack at the rampaging poisonous toad, intending to subdue it without a lethal blow. The attack is too fast for the nascent soul beast to dodge, a testament to Shen Shi's superior control and power. Instead of crushing the toad, the attack hit slightly on the right side, warning the toad. The toad was terrified in horror of Shen Shi's powers. Soon after, the toad stares in disbelief, completely powerless against the technique of a cultivator it had dismissed as a mere golden core. With the beast completely at his mercy, Shen Shi calmly retracts his sword and offers it a deal. Stay out of his way, and he will spare its life. Thoroughly terrified and humbled, the toad quickly agrees, croaking its thanks for the mercy shown. Moments later, with the situation resolved, Shen Shi looked at the 5-element fruit and the stone, grumbling, I could have easily gotten it if that silly girl Yu Wushuang didn't interfere. Then I wouldn't have to settle it in such a simple and crude way. His complaints are cut short by a blushing Yu Wushuang, who now meekly asks, excuse me, could you give me some of the 5-element fruit? You can name any price. Shen Shi smirks, recognizing the spoiled nature of the character he created. He teases her, asking, I can name any price, and what if I don't want to sell it? As Shen Shi internally thinks she is the same as always. She wants to obtain anything that she thinks is good. On the other side, completely flustered by his question, the proud genius of the Taiyun sect is left speechless and red-faced. In a desperate panic, she makes a ridiculously high offer, 5 priceless 5th-grade elixirs in exchange for just one of the fruits. The toad is flabbergasted, shouting, Croak? Seriously, you could have directly told me the price and I would have given you all 5 fruits. Why did you have to fight? Then, Shen Shi can't help but facepalm, thinking this poisonous toad is guarding the 5-element fruit because it wants to transform and the most effective transformation elixir made from it is only 5th grade. But now you're saying you'll exchange 5 5th-grade elixirs for 1 5-element fruit? He looks at her with utter exasperation, thinking to himself, as expected from you. He internally sighs, thinking of her as his ex-girlfriend from his past life as an author, and laments how her personality hasn't changed one bit from the spoiled character he wrote. Soon after, misinterpreting his silence as a rejection of her offer, she begins to pull out even more treasures. She presents a Winter Mountain Spirit Stone, another incredibly rare and valuable item that even the toad recognizes with shock. However, she quickly realizes its value and snatches it back, unable to part with such a treasure. Moments later, she continues to rummage through her bag, presenting various other gems and jades, much to the toad's greedy delight. Seeing the dazzling display of wealth, the toad spoke telepathically to Shen Shi, suggesting, human, let's work together to get rid of her and get her treasures. If you want, I can also use poison and let you have your way with this pretty lady. Shen Shi silences the treacherous beast with a single, cold glare, threatening, shut your mouth if you still want to live. The toad, horrified, immediately sealed its mouth shut. On the other side, fed up with her carelessness, he snaps at her, scolding her, enough, stop taking stuff out. Hasn't anyone told you what to be careful of when you go outside? Thoroughly chastised, she guiltily confesses that she snuck out of her sect without permission. Shen Shi facepalms, feeling like he is the one being wronged in this entire ridiculous situation. Then, Shen Shi sighs and reaches for the treasures. He collects all the treasures using his energy, pulling them into a bag. He catches the treasure bag, his patience clearly at its limit. To be clear, these are not Yu Wushuang's treasures. It is all of the loot including the 5-element fruit and the stones. Soon after, Yu Wushuang sighs, finally accepting that she has been thoroughly and rightfully scolded. He relents, tossing her the fire-element fruit she had wanted from the start. She stares in disbelief, completely stunned that he would just give it to her after her foolish behavior. Moments later, he lectures her one last time. When you go out, you should remember not to reveal your wealth, or you will be targeted by people with evil intentions. If that happens, even if your backing is strong, you won't be able to avoid injury or even death. Now, take the fruit and go home early. As Yu Wushuang stares at him, his stern but genuine concern catches her off guard, causing her heart to flutter. Averting his gaze, he awkwardly pushes the fruit toward her, telling her to take it before he changes his mind. Meanwhile, Yu Wushuang notices the striking similarities between this young man's presence and that of Shen Shi. On the other side, Yu Wushuang internally thinks, why did I think of him again? But this young man is really similar to him. I wonder how he is doing that time. He really liked to show off and was obviously an idiot. He even stood in my way, refusing to accept his charity. She insists on paying a fair price, even offering to promise him anything he wants in return. Seeing an opportunity for his true goal, Shen Shi proposes a trade. The 5-element fruit isn't something so valuable in the first place. I'll exchange it for 1 transformation elixir and an ingot of Deluo gold. Then, she is amazed by his knowledge. Deluo gold. Not only is your cultivation level high, you are also skilled in refining. How impressive. Shen Shi humbly brushes off her praise, claiming he only knows a little about the subject. Yu Wushuang readily agrees to the deal. This is the transformation pill. Unfortunately, I didn't bring any refining material with me, but I have a way to give it to you later. This is the mother sword of the channeling jade sword. When I return to the sect, I will send it to you through the child sword of the channeling jade sword. Soon after, Shen Shi kinda shocked state. The price of this channeling jade sword already way exceeds the price of both the 5-element fruit and transformation pill. She properly introduces herself. I'm Yu Wushuang from the Taiyun Immortal Sect. Since you've saved my life, I will naturally repay you generously in addition to transferring items. This jade sword can be used to communicate with me. If you have any questions, you can contact me at any time. Still cautious, Shen Shi gives her another fake name, Qian Ren, a casual cultivator. Moments later, with a final wave and a reminder to contact her, she flies off. He watches her go, a fond smile on his face as he thinks, this silly girl. His business with the girl concluded, he turns back to the toad, which is desperately trying to escape. He offers it the transformation pill, telling it to leave if it is not interested. Instantly, the toad's mood does a 180-degree turn. Sir, no, grandfather, you are giving me the transformation pill. Shen Shi replies, then what do you think I would need it for? But in return, you'll have to help me do something. On the other side, the toad immediately becomes suspicious and asks, what? You want me to become your pet for just that? Shen Shi playfully threatens it with his sword. What? You don't want to? And the terrified toad immediately changes its tune. No, how could I not? I'm willing to do anything, so please put that sword down first. Croak. Shen Shi explains as he tosses the pill into the toad's mouth. Eat it. A demonic beast is at its weakest during transformation, and the unique scent of the pill will attract a large number of other beasts. I'll protect you. The toad asks with a worried croak. Croak. Now, but there are so many beasts on this mountain. The chapter ends with Shen Shi promising that nothing can hurt the toad while he is there, just as monsters begin emerging from the forest. Chapter 16 opens as the toad begins its transformation, and the scent of the pill attracts a swarm of demonic beasts, all drawn by the promise of a powerful meal. Then, the first to attack is a powerful golden wolf, its eyes burning with hunger and rage as it is attacked. It is Shen Shi, standing guard. He easily deflects the peak golden core beast's attack with a casual flick of his wrist. This demon beast at the peak of the golden core stage really is bold, he states. He actually dared to charge at me. He surveys the swarm, deducing that since a nascent soul stage like you is usually able to keep the demon beasts here at bay, then that peak golden core stage demonic beast should be the strongest among them. Soon after, the toad in its vulnerable state begins to panic, warning its new master. Master, although those demonic beasts' cultivation is not comparable to yours, but their numbers are too many. Shen Shi simply smiles, telling it, don't worry. I'm here. You focus on grabbing the surrounding spiritual energy and absorb it. He takes it a step further, offering, that is right. I'll help you gather some more spiritual energy over here as well. Moments later, he effortlessly channels the power of the heavens and the earth, creating a vortex of pure spiritual energy. The energy from the entire mountain converges on their location, a display of incredible power and control. The toad is left speechless, wondering all of the energy in the vicinity is gathering. Such divine ability, is he still a golden core cultivator? Don't tell me he is the type that has hundreds of golden pills in his stomach? On the other side, his tasks complete, Shen Shi sighs. I'm done. Let me think, I don't have any AoE skills. How should I deal with this much demonic beast? Deciding to improvise, he unleashes a barrage of spiritual energy attacks. He creates a makeshift barrier and energy swords, a wall of pure energy to hold back the tide of demonic beasts. Then, the barrier holds firm, a testament to his precise control. He then unleashes his ultimate technique, overlapping mountains. A massive ring of illusionary blades traps the entire swarm of beasts. With the beasts contained, he can't help but enjoy delivering a classic villain line, even if it is just to a bunch of mindless monsters. Soon after, now with the enemies trapped, it is time to finish them off. He prepares his signature move, Stepping Wave. He moves like a phantom through the battlefield, a whirlwind of steel and water energy. One by one, the demonic beasts fall before his overwhelming power, unable to even touch him. Moments later, after effortlessly wiping out the entire swarm, he turns to the stunned toad and smugly asks, how is my technique? The toad can only sweat drop, thinking to itself that he only seems to know that one move. Shen Shi gives his new subordinate a casual order. By the way, collect all of the inner pills and materials from the demonic beast. They're all money. The toad, trembling before its new master, thinks, this human cultivator is too scary. From now on, I better not anger him. On the other side, Shen Shi casually orders his new subordinate to collect every inner pill and useful material, because to him, it all means money. The toad trembles and decides it should never get on this cultivator's bad side. As he checks the loot, Shen Shi's modern world instincts kick in. The silky misty snakeskin looks absurdly valuable, and he can already imagine people fighting over it. His mind drifts back to the strange idea, and he has to mentally scold himself for letting his modern imagination wander. Then, his heavenly dreams are cut short by the toad. With its transformation finally complete, the creature thanks its master for protecting it during its most vulnerable moment. His daydream is cut short when the toad completes its transformation, and sincerely thanks him for protecting it at its weakest moment. To his complete surprise, the large burly toad blushes and coyly reveals that she is, in fact, a female. Soon after, Shen Shi is left speechless, his brain short-circuiting as he tries to understand why a female toad would fall for his illusion of a beautiful female frog. As he asks the toad, "What the hell, then why are you attracted to my illusionary white jade frog?" The toad is equally stunned, horrified to learn that her fated first love was nothing but a fake. Exasperated, Shen Shi promises to find her a real mate someday. The toad, quickly getting over her heartbreak, eagerly asks for the name he promised. Moments later, noting her dark ink-like skin, he ironically names her Xiao Bai, meaning Little White. The newly named toad is not impressed. Meanwhile, back at Muling Castle, Lu Shasha confronts her treacherous clan elders, who have gone behind her back. They defend their actions. "Madam, this is all for the sake of Muling Castle and the Jade Kingdom's royal family, and it can also be considered something we can rely on. Not to mention that the 6th prince is also interested in the young miss, which is also good for Yuding." On the other side, they reveal the truth, stating, "That is right, madam. We have already accepted the bridal gifts from the royal family. If we break our promise now, I'm afraid we will anger the royal family. This will be detrimental to our Muling Castle." It is said that the Jade Kingdom has 3 cultivators. Each of them is a great cultivator, so we can't offend them. I noticed that the young miss has also come back with us, so she must not have entered the sect, and the 6th prince is waiting outside the gate. As long as the madam agrees, the future of our Muling Castle will be limitless. Lu Shasha is furious. "Enough. You agreed to a marriage without me and Yuding's knowledge, saying that it was good for the Muling Castle?" She accuses them. "The 3 great halls of the Muling Castle have been losing money year after year, but your pockets have been getting bigger. Do you think I don't know that? No matter what, I won't agree to this marriage." Then, her defiant speech is interrupted by a slow clap from the doorway. A newcomer enters, calling her statement inspiring. It is the 6th prince himself, who makes his grand entrance, shamelessly complimenting. "I never thought that Muling Castle madam's body was so hot. Her personality is also temperamental. I like it." He sneers and tries to intimidate Luo Shasha with crude remarks, proving exactly how low he is willing to stoop. Soon after, he then makes an interesting proposal. "I'm a person who appreciates. I also dislike beating around the bush. Since you two are not blood related, why don't you both call each other sisters and get married to me? I guarantee that from now on, Muling Castle will be able to develop its power. Everything will be backed by the Jade Palace backing." Lu Sasha glares at him with pure disgust and states, "Your Highness, the 6th prince, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I refuse," and calls for Elder Bai. She then orders her new protector, Elder Bai, to send the unwanted guests packing. Moments later, as Elder Bai steps forward, the prince's guards are stunned to sense his power, recognizing him as a mid-stage foundation-building cultivator. The prince is furious, having been led to believe the castle was completely defenseless. The prince's guards recognize the famous Bai Jishui, stunned that the rumors of his declining strength were false. On the other side, the arrogant prince tries to buy his loyalty, offering to triple whatever Muling Castle is paying him. But Elder Bai, empowered by Shen Shi's gift, rejects the offer without hesitation, declaring himself a protector of Muling Castle. Realizing he is outmatched, the humiliated prince has no choice but to retreat. Then, from a nearby rooftop, Shen Shi's new pet, Xiao Bai, watches the prince flee and calls him a coward. Shen Shi, relaxing nearby, explains that these teenage mutant ninja turtle types are the most difficult to deal with, and this is only the beginning of Muling Castle's troubles. Xiao Bai asks the obvious question since his new disciple, Yuding, is from the castle. Why doesn't he just step in and solve all their problems? The chapter closes with Shen Shi, ever the author, explains that simply solving every problem would be boring. He knows the typical story progression and finds the constant battles to be repetitive and uninteresting for the reader. Chapter 17 opens with Shen Shi reviewing the balance he has created, with Bai Jishui supporting Muling Castle and 3 cultivators in the Jade Kingdom. Small conflicts may happen, but a major war should be avoided. Then, his new companion, the transformed poisonous toad, asks if the cultivator world is really as dangerous as he makes it out to be. Shen Shi confirms its dangers, quite dangerous. So you have to learn how to conceal and disguise yourself well. Be careful not to tempt fate or else become roasted chicken. The toad grumpily corrects him. I'm a toad, not a chicken. With his business concluded, he tells the toad it is time to meet his new disciple and teleports away. Soon after, he arrives at Muling Castle, sensing his new disciple's presence behind a curtain. Inside, Yuting is deep in meditation, diligently practicing the cultivation technique her master passed on to her. A serene smile graces her lips as she feels the spiritual energy flowing through her body. Moments later, her aura pulses with power as she successfully completes a cycle of cultivation. Her eyes snap open, shining with newfound strength and clarity. She is greeted by the sight of her master, who has been quietly observing her progress. On the other side, he praises her for her hard work and amazing talent, having reached the first stage of cultivation in such a short time. Overjoyed by his praise and his return, Yuting leaps towards him with a happy cry of master. She tackles him in an enthusiastic hug, landing squarely in his lap. Then, he chuckles, trying to calm her down, but she clings to him, her affection clear. She corrects him, saying it has been 10 long days and she missed him terribly. She also pouts, reminding him that he left without proper courtesy last time. He smiles warmly, promising that as long as she behaves, her master will meet any of her needs. Soon after, her eyes light up as she flirtatiously asks, "Anything is fine?" She leans in close, and in her daydream, he rewards his good disciple with a passionate kiss and more. Shen Shi snaps her out of her lewd fantasy. He asks if she is alright, just as Yuting suffers a massive loses his composure. Moments later, mortified at being caught, Yuting suffers a massive loses his composure and frantically blames it on eating too well. The blood drips down, staining a specific spot on her clothes. He grins, telling her he has something to show her, while internally praying the loses his composure isn't for the reason he suspects. He presents the tiny toad, introducing it as Xiao Bai. He warns her that despite its cute appearance, it has the strength of a nascent soul expert and will protect her while he is away. On the other side, Yuting's eyes fill with tears, her heart sinking at the thought of him leaving again so soon. He gently comforts her, reassuring her, "Foolish child, how can I cast you aside?" A teacup shatters against the floor. Then, at that moment, Luoshasha enters the room, her eyes wide with shock. Her gaze is fixed on one thing. Yuting leans on Shen Shi, crying and blushing at the same time. Soon after, she stares at the bloodstain on her daughter's inner thigh, a direct result of her recent loses his composure. The placement of the stain paints a very, very wrong picture. Shen Shi begins to panic, desperately trying to explain the massive misunderstanding as Luoshasha stands there, radiating pure menace. Shen Shi falls into a panic as Luoshasha makes a quick exit, a move that only serves to make Shen Shi look even more guilty. Moments later, his mind goes blank. Oh no, Luoshasha explodes with fury. "You monster. Yuting is just 1 year away from coming of age. I can believe you are in such a hurry, monster." Twin in ancient China, 15 was considered to be of age for girls to be married. Meanwhile, Yuting is 14. In a strange insecure tangent, she suddenly worries, "Do I look too old now?" On the other side, Shen Shi, ever the opportunist, smoothly compliments her. "How is that possible? Madam is young and pretty. How can you look old?" Her anger immediately subsides. "Master must be joking. I apologize for intruding on you just now." He tries again to explain, "It was a misunderstanding. Yuting and I are of teacher-disciple relationship. That blood was from Yuting's loses his composure. I don't know why this girl would suddenly have a nosebleed." But Luoshasha interrupts midway. Then, Luoshasha cuts him off with a sly look, saying, "Master, I have not said anything. You have no need to explain whatsoever." He insists, genuinely afraid that she'll get the wrong idea. She continues to tease him, coyly asking what exactly she would misunderstand. Soon after, she leans in closer, pressing him. "And so what if I misunderstand? Why would you care about my feelings?" Shen Shi is completely flustered by her bold advances as he internally thinks, She is teasing me. That is right, we're all adults, so what is there to be afraid of?" In his wild imagination, he responds with equal boldness, giving her a firm pat on the rear. He imagines pulling her close, telling her he was afraid she'd misunderstand his heart. She melts in his arms, asking him to call her by her name. Moments later, Shen Shi asks, "Don't you think calling you madam is more exciting?" Luoshasha replies, "Master, so this is how you like to play." The fantasy abruptly ends, revealing that he is still standing there, blushing and stammering, completely outplayed by the mature woman. He makes a hasty excuse. "I left Yuting some things. You could also use some of them. I've already instructed Yuting of that then I'll get going now." And he practically flees the room. Still confused, Luoshasha watches as he bolts away. He flies away at top speed, not looking back. On the other side, once he is a safe distance away, he facepalms in embarrassment, kicking himself for panicking. He vows to be much smoother next time. Why did I panic at the most crucial time? Now that I think about it, That is so embarrassing. Next time I'll do this, and that, and then this. His thoughts are interrupted by a ding from the jade sword given to him by Yu Wushuang. A holographic screen appears displaying a series of cute text messages from her. Qian Ren, you there? I just got back to Taiyun Immortal Sect subclan. I'm safe now. I know you're probably busy now, so I won't bother you now. Next time, I can contact you more often. Do you have any questions? He is stunned. What the heck? A messaging app. Then, he is completely bewildered by the situation. What is this setup? She wants to start online dating. Start e-dating with my ex-girlfriend? Back at a hot spring, Yu Wushuang smiles, pleased. Haha, as expected. He accepted. She calls out his real name, revealing she has known his true identity all along. Shen Shi, you jerk. Did you think you could hide from me? Soon after, having finally tracked him down after a long search, she vows that this time, she won't let him run away from her. The chapter ends with Yuding quietly pouting as she wonders why Shen Shi left back then, without saying goodbye. Chapter 18 opens back on the now livelier Erbai Peak. Then, the sounds of splashing and laughter echo through a newly formed bamboo forest. Shen Shi's 4 female disciples are enjoying a relaxing soak in a newly built hot spring. A surprise addition to the peak. The mischievous Kang Yuling playfully teases her second senior sister Xuanyu about her impressive assets, asking for a touch. Xuanyu, flustered, quickly deflects the attention to their third sister. Soon after, the target of this deflection, Han Xianar looks on with a nervous blush, unsure of what her troublemaking junior sister is planning. With a demonic grin, Kang Yuling pounces on her, demanding that she give in. With a mischievous grin, Kang Yuling pounces into the teasing and demands that she give in. Moments later, Yerwei then makes a suggestive comment, wondering if her touch feels the same as their master's, referencing a past incident. Yerwei teases her with a pointed comment about their master, turning an old misunderstanding into fresh embarrassment. Catching the clothes that had gone flying during the incident, Shen Shi stands frozen. He has just returned from his travels, only to be met with total confusion. Why are there suddenly a bamboo forest and a hot spring on his mountain? On the other side, his newest disciple, the protagonist Xiao Qir, pops up from the water and proudly claims, Master, you're back. It is I who prepared this hot spring for you. Too tired to argue, Shen Shi decides to just go with it. Is that so? Then when Yerwei and the others are finished, I will also take a soak to relax from the journey. But Qir has other plans. She latches onto him, desperately pleading for him not to enter the spring. Then, she explains with a devious look, I prepared this for you so that you could conveniently see senior sisters' seductive bodies while they take a bath, Master. I've done so much for you. Don't you like me? Caught off guard and flustered by her forwardness, Shen Shi begins to stammer out that he likes her. He immediately catches himself, his face turning beet red as he realizes the dangerous implications of what he is saying to his young, manipulative protagonist turned disciple. Soon after, he decides to assert his authority the only way he knows how, with a punishment. He gives the mischievous girl a firm lesson for her underhanded charm techniques, scolding her as he does. All right, grow up. How dare you try these 5 charm techniques on Master? Where did you learn such underhanded tricks? Qir tearfully explains that since she can't cultivate and the sect trials are approaching, she had no choice but to learn some self-defense techniques. His anger softens. He tells her not to resort to such tricks and to stop worrying about her cultivation. He reveals he has found a solution and instructs her to come to his room later to discuss it. Moments later, with one disciple's crisis averted for now, Shen Shi turns his attention to his next matter of business. He spots a familiar figure waiting for him, Peak Master Bai Ran. She greets him formally, apologizing for the unannounced visit. On the other side, Shen Shi, putting on a cool and composed front, graciously invites her inside to talk. As they walk through his courtyard, Bai Ran reflects on what she knows about the man beside her. I've heard that Shen Shi is chaotic, has a high cultivation, is arrogant and domineering, and is more tyrannical to his disciples. Then yet, the man she has met is different. While still cold and aloof, his presence is strangely comforting, not threatening. She finds herself blushing, flustered by the realization that such a man must be popular, and quickly dismisses her own stray thoughts. As Shen Shi apologized, forgive me, I do not have much to welcome. Me, you. He offers her a seat and some tea made from the rare Edelweiss herbs that grow on his peak. Soon after, she gets straight to the point of her visit, formally thanking him for entrusting her with the talented disciple, Wei Qin, during the conference. He brushes off her gratitude, casually using his water magic to pour her tea, while reiterating that she was the most suitable teacher for the girl. Bai Ran, however, sees through his casual demeanor. She understands that with his high cultivation and perception, he is intentionally looking out for her, and she is deeply moved by his unspoken kindness. Moments later, as a token of her gratitude, she presents him with a precious iceberg bamboo jade, a treasure that perfectly complements his water-based techniques. Shen Shi is genuinely surprised, recognizing the immense value of the gift, and knowing she must have a great need for it herself. She insists he take it, her expression firm and sincere, as she vows to remember his kindness forever. On the other side, he recognizes the unwavering determination in her eyes, seeing past her gentle exterior to the strong, unyielding woman within. He accepts her gift and in return, offers his assistance for any future troubles she may face. His direct and sincere offer leaves her flustered and blushing, her heart pounding in her chest. Then, seeing her hesitation, he encourages her to speak freely. Sensing there is more to her visit, she reveals her second purpose: to commission him, a renowned refiner, to craft a magic treasure for her beloved disciple, offering him a bag full of rare materials for the task. Impressed by her devotion, he agrees, taking the materials and noting that he needs to craft some items for his own disciples as well. Soon after, overwhelmed by his generosity, Byran once again pledges her unconditional support, promising to help him with anything he might need in the future. He smiles, telling her not to be so formal as he pours her another cup of tea. The two of them sit in comfortable silence, enjoying the peaceful moment together. Moments later, as Byran sips her tea, a faint blush graces her cheeks, her admiration for the man before her growing. Shen Shi finds himself genuinely enjoying her company, thinking that the simple pleasure of sharing tea with a beautiful woman isn't so bad after all. His peaceful reverie is shattered by a sudden jolt of immense power, surging through his body. On the other side, he realizes his author's cheat is acting up again. The suppression on his cultivation is failing, and he is on the verge of breaking through to the god stage. He quickly works to disperse the excess Tao rhythm. Byran looks up, noticing a strange and wonderful sensation emanating from the tea she just drank. She stares at her cup, her eyes wide with wonder as a wave of enlightenment washes over her. Then, she closes her eyes, absorbing the profound insights granted by the dispersed Tao rhythm. Shen Shi watches in amazement. Heavenly Tao elder brother is really too forgiving, freely giving out implications and epiphanies. The result of my dispersion, could it be absorbed by others around me? Does this mean I can take substitute trainer tasks now? He realizes this Tao rhythm and spiritual links come every month in 10 days. Even anti-red is more frequent if I disper. Said these myself. Wouldn't that help my disciples cultivate? Soon after, Byran hums contentedly, still lost in her meditative state. In a flash of golden light, she experiences a major breakthrough, her cultivation level soaring. The chapter ends as Shen Shi congratulates her with genuine respect. Byran has skipped straight into the late golden core stage, which means from now on, everyone should address her as Master Byran. Chapter 19 opens with the newly promoted Master Byran sincerely thanking Shen Shi for helping her breakthrough. Then, he humbly brushes it off, attributing her success to her own hard work, while internally sweating that he can't possibly admit his author's cheat power was the real cause. His humble and charming demeanor leaves a deep impression on the beautiful Peak Master. Flustered and blushing, she shyly asks if she can visit him more often, using his delicious tea as a pretext. Soon after, surprised but not unwilling, Shen Shi agrees, telling her she is welcome anytime. He watches her walk away, a new and unexpected connection forming between the two masters. With his visitor gone, Shen Shi turns his attention back to his disciples, calling for Chuer. Moments later, Chuer appears, now in a playful cat-eared outfit, and playfully complains about her master's irresistible charm. He gets down to business, asking her how her cultivation has been progressing since he gave her the 5-element stone. She explains that despite her best efforts, the spiritual energy she absorbs dissipates after just a few cycles, and she is worried she wasted the precious elixir he gave her. On the other side, he gently reassures his foolish child, telling her not to worry about a mere elixir. He reveals he has found the solution to her problem and places the 5-element stone he retrieved into the pendant around her neck, telling her to try cultivating again. The effect is instantaneous. With the stone balancing her 5 spiritual roots, spiritual energy now flows into her smoothly and powerfully. Then, her eyes widen in amazement as she feels the unobstructed flow of power for the first time. She tightly grips Shen Shi's wrist. She excitedly grabs Shen Shi's hand to prove she has recovered, leaving him to facepalm at her pure, simple-hearted enthusiasm. Soon after, he also gives her the mutated Edelweiss he retrieved from his garden, another of the protagonist's original cheats, as a backup for any future bottlenecks. But her attention is diverted by a long strand of pink hair on his shoulder. She playfully interrogates him, asking which woman it belongs to. She then starts giving him relationship advice, warning him about wanton women and insisting that if he chooses a partner, he must get her approval first. Moments later, completely fed up with her antics, he yells at her to go cultivate. She happily runs off with her new treasure, her mission to tease her master a success. He sighs, reflecting on how his real-life goddess's protagonist is cheeky, two-faced, and completely undisciplined. But with Chair's cultivation problem solved, he feels a sense of accomplishment. He can now focus on crafting magic treasures for his disciples once the Deluo gold arrives. On the other side, 3 months pass, At the Shangding sect's main peak, an important meeting is underway. An elder reports that scouts from the rival Daiqing sect have been spotted near their sect's spiritual veins. Another elder confirms their recent aggressive expansion, wondering if the Shangding sect is their next target. Then, the patriarch Ning Sheming calmly assesses the threat, believing a full-scale war is unlikely, but that they must still be prepared for any eventuality. He orders the Great Elder to visit their allies, the Dongming Pavilion, and the Yuhua sect, to secure their support. The Great Elder agrees to go to the Dongming Pavilion, but expresses great reluctance to visit the Yuhua sect, hinting at a past trauma. Soon after, a flashback reveals that 10 years ago, a messenger was sent to the Yuhua sect to deliver an important announcement. However, he was inexplicably delayed there for a long time. When he finally returned, he had lost a significant amount of weight and his cultivation had regressed. He sighs, so be it. An elder proposes the cultivator that goes to Yuhua sect must be of great strength. Only then can we show the sincerity of the Shangding sect. Bai Ran of the late Golden Core stage should be qualified to complete this task. The patriarch ponders. Master Bai Ran has only recently made a breakthrough, only sending her by herself. Moments later, the scheming elder, seeking to cause more trouble for Shen Shi, sees an opportunity and suggests, how about asking Master Shen Shi to accompany her? I believe an expert in the perfected Golden Core stage is enough to command the respect of the Yuhua sect. The patriarch immediately sees through the elder's ploy. Realizing he is trying to stir up trouble, the patriarch tries to shut down the idea, reminding them that Master Shen Shi is still in closed-door cultivation, just as a sudden blast from Shen Shi's peak arrives at that very moment. On the other side, at that very moment, a massive surge of spiritual energy erupts from the direction of her Bai peak, leading the elders to believe an immortal treasure has been born. In a flurry of panic, they shout, "What is this? Immortal treasure has emerged." Bai peak's direction, another cries out. Then, the first elder clarifies, not an immortal treasure, it is not an immortal treasure. Scared me to death. Although there is a strand of Tao rhythm, it should be a rather high-quality Xuan treasure. The patriarch looks on, a knowing expression on his face. Back on Bai peak, Shen Shi finishes his work. He was so engrossed in his refining that he almost accidentally created an immortal treasure, a troublesome feat he barely managed to suppress. Then, as he emerges from his seclusion, he is greeted by his 5 beautiful and now significantly more powerful disciples. He smiles, pleased to see them all together, and asks how their cultivation has been progressing in his absence. Yeweli reports that everyone has been diligent, especially Qir and Xianar, who have already reached the 5th level of the Qi refining realm. Soon after, he pats Qir on the head, impressed by her rapid progress and telling her she can now be considered an intermediate cultivator. Dong Yerli playfully pulls Qir back, calling her little junior sister. She warns her that the master's spiritual energy is unstable after his seclusion, and that she shouldn't get too close. Moments later, Qir cheekily retorts that her unique 5-element constitution can easily handle any unstable spiritual energy, so there is no need to worry. A silent spark of rivalry flashes between the eldest and youngest disciples, a playful clash of personalities. Changing the subject, Shen Shi praises Yerli, noting she has also broken through to the 2nd level of the foundation building realm. On the other side, she credits the technique he taught her, while he muses that she has already mastered the softness around the finger technique. A small, annoyed Qir is seen in the background. She proudly explains that not only has she mastered the technique, but she has also adapted it to her own spiritual power, developing an even stronger version for herself. He is flustered, having only taught her a basic technique to build goodwill, but he is also genuinely impressed by her talent and asks for a demonstration. Then, Yeweli agrees and asks Qir to assist, noting her junior sister's unique talent for dissolving the impact of spiritual energy. The two girls face off, their smiles holding a sharp competitive edge as they agree that it is just a demonstration. The chapter ends with Shen Shi wondering why a cultivation story suddenly sounds so much like a court drama. Chapter 20 opens by setting up a friendly spar between the eldest disciple, Dong Yerli, and the youngest, Xiao Qi, heir, to demonstrate their new skills. Then, Shen Shi watches silently, curious to see how this will play out. But before the fight can begin, a brilliant idea strikes him. He interrupts the spar, telling Qir that he has crafted a special immortal sword, just for her. Soon after, her eyes light up with stars as she thanks her master profusely for the incredible gift. But her excitement quickly turns to confusion as she examines the weapon. It is not a sword at all, but a massive, bizarre-looking wood chipper. Moments later, he gives her an encouraging thumbs up, telling her to have faith in his craftsmanship. As she grips the handle, she is surprised to feel a powerful Tao rhythm flowing into her, confirming it is a high-grade weapon despite its strange appearance. With her new weapon in hand, her confidence is restored, and she is ready for battle. On the other side, the spar is suddenly interrupted by a scream from the sidelines. It is Kang Yuling. Shen Shi asks her what is wrong. She points dramatically, tattling that her sisters are fighting amongst themselves. Then, Shen Shi looks utterly exhausted as he sees Xuan Yu and Shen are struggling to hold back the enraged Kang Yuling. With the distractions handled, Shen Shi internally thinks, it is time to see the result of the apprenticeship. Dong Yueli lands with a crash, instantly creating a massive field of sharp ice spikes, her control over her mutated ice root on full display. Soon after, Xiao Qier was stunned by the impending attack and began to analyze the situation. Qier counters by swinging her new immortal wood chipper, unleashing a powerful wave of her own spiritual energy. Dong Yueli's attack forms a barrier around Xiao Qier as she charges forward, solidifying her spiritual power into her immortal wood chipper. Moments later, Xuan Yu is stunned, recognizing the technique as the solidification of spiritual power, an ability that should be impossible for someone still in the chi-refining realm. Yureli guesses that her junior sister's incredible feat is thanks to the strange but powerful weapon their master crafted. With a single powerful strike, Qier shatters the ice prison that Yureli had created. On the other side, she leaps high above the battlefield, preparing to press her advantage, but Yureli smirks. While she is impressed, she knows her junior sister is still inexperienced. She casts a powerful binding spell, a ring of energy shooting towards the airborne Qier. Then, Shen Shi is once again impressed by his eldest disciple's talent. He recognizes this spell has multiple variations, and its power has reached the level of an upper-grade spirit-level spell. If you go further, it becomes a supreme-grade spirit-level spell. Self-created supreme-grade spirit-level spells. This talent and effort is very terrifying. He is also confused. In the original book setting, Dong Yueli didn't have such a strong understanding. Not only that, she doesn't cultivate actively either. Why is she motivated to fight, and becoming a hard-working genius now isn't lazing around good? The answer lies in her gaze, which is fixed on her master. Soon after, her internal monologue reveals her true motivation. Only by getting stronger and stronger can I get closer and closer to master. When I become stronger than master, master will then have no way to refuse me. But her momentary distraction proves to be a fatal mistake. From within the ice, Qier's voice calls out, "Senior sister, you're distracted." She unleashes her signature skill, the spirit chopping wheel. Shen Shi is stunned, as this is a technique the protagonist was supposed to learn only after reaching the golden core stage. Moments later, Shen Shi continued his internal monologue. 5 elements rotation of spiritual power. Even if Dong Yueli has a mutated spiritual root, and did not transcend the 5 elements under the spirit chopping wheel, all spiritual power will be instantly disintegrated. With a powerful cry, Qier launches her ultimate attack, but Yueli remains confident, declaring, "Junior sister's strength is really out of my expectations. But you still lose. Your senior sister's technique is not over yet." On the other side, when Xiao Qier was about to hit Dong Yueli, she froze Xiao Qier with another variation of her technique. Dong Yueli neutralized her attack, freeing Xiao Qier from the freeze. Then, she gave her junior sister a triumphant wink. Exhausted and out of spiritual energy, Qier gracefully concedes defeat. Then, Shen Shi comforts his youngest disciple by patting her head and gently reminding her not to catch a cold, as he uses his wind spiritual power to dry Xiao Qier's clothes. He praises both of them for their incredible progress, officially naming Yueli's new supreme grade spell the ice-crushing formation. As for Qier's technique, Qier proudly explains its principles. This technique comes from the 5 elements of reincarnation, and the 5 elements of spiritual energy have a very strong dissipation effect, so I'm going to call it Spirit Chopping Wheel. Soon after, with the demonstration over, he gathers all his disciples, announcing he has crafted a unique weapon for each of them to master before the sect trials in 2 months. For the timid Xuan Yu, who is afraid of pain, he provides a massive defensive shield, which she gratefully accepts. The excitable Kang Yuling eagerly runs up to him, wondering what her own special treasure will be. Moments later, he presents her with a magical girl wand. She innocently asks if it is a new kind of club for bashing people. Flustered, Shen Shi tries to explain that it is a magical wand meant for casting spells by channeling spiritual power. She remains unconvinced. A magical wand? A stick for touching hair? Isn't that still a striking weapon? On the other side, completely defeated by her logic, Shen Shi gives up, stating, "Sure, if you're happy with it," as other disciples call him. Finally, his last 2 disciples, Yueli and CNR, receive treasures in the form of clothing. He gives them not weapons, but new sets of clothes, offering a confident thumbs up, even as his nose bleeds. Then, Yueli, ever the flirt, immediately blushes and asks, "Does master want me to dress in this for you to see?" The chapter ends with Shen Shi playing it cool and insisting the outfits are practical training gear that everyone needs to get used to. Chapter 21 picks up after receiving their new custom-made magic items. The disciples are eager to try them out. Hanxian Er, however, is a bit perplexed by her gift. Then, Shen Shi explains that he crafted them from the skin of a misty snake. It is an all-in-one magical equipment that functions as both offense and defense, silk high tights. She is impressed by their power but has a very practical question. How exactly is she supposed to wear them? He leans in and quietly explains the complicated way to wear the new defensive leggings. Soon after, the seemingly complex process is now clear to her. So that is how you do it, she says. I understand, master. With the mystery solved, she begins to put on her new magical armor. The defensive leggings fit perfectly, looking stylish while still serving as practical protective gear. Moments later, Shen Shi is incredibly proud of himself, internally gloating about his genius in designing such a suitable item for his leggy disciple. He can't help but admire the view, while a stunned Xuanyu looks on in disbelief at her sister's new attire. Xuanyu then turns her attention to Dong Yureli, asking if she is really going to wear the outfit the master designed for her. On the other side, of course, she is. With a proud look, Yureli begins to change into her own custom-made magical equipment. His disciple calls to him, disturbing his view of heaven. Shen Shi looks on, a bit tired, but also curious to see the final result. Yureli emerges, dressed in a sparkling Japanese-style schoolgirl uniform, and strikes a pose, asking her master if he thinks she looks good. Then, he is left completely flustered, surrounded by floating hearts as he stammers out his approval. The scene is interrupted by a menacing-looking cheer, who offers to test the defensive ability of Yureli's new outfit with her giant woodchipper. Fed up, Shen Shi orders them all to stop messing around and go get used to their new gear. He has been summoned to the main peak and must go. Soon after, he flies off, leaving his chaotic disciples to their own devices. He arrives at the Patriarch's hall, asks, I wonder what Patriarch wants from me? Inside, he finds the sect leadership in a serious meeting. He is informed that the rival Diqing sect has been making aggressive moves near their territory. Moments later, the Patriarch explains that due to the rising threat, they've decided it is necessary to inform their allies and prepare for a potential war. Shen Shi, knowing full well what is going on from his own novel's plot, feigns ignorance and plays along. The Patriarch officially tasks him with being the sect's representative to unite their allies and form a united front against the Diqing sect. On the other side, Shen Shi attempts to deflect the duty, suggesting that one of the more experienced elders would be a better choice for such a diplomatic mission. He realizes this is a major turning point from his novel, so it has come to this storyline. It seems that the great tribulation of the Shangding Immortal sect closing. This is also an opportunity for Shen Shi to kill the protagonist in the original plot. The Great and the Second Elder, who went to the Yuhua sect and Dongming Pavilion, were killed. The Patriarch explains the plan. The Great Elder is going to Dongming Pavilion in person, while Master Bai Ran is going to Yuhua sect. But we are worried. Then, Shen Shi is stunned by this change in the plot. Knowing the Yuhua sect is a dangerous place, he asks again to confirm. Bai Ran is going to the Yuhua sect. The Patriarch shares his concerns. That is right, this is what we've decided earlier. Although Master Bai is already in the late stages of Golden Core, but time is short. Therefore, we hope that Master Shen, who has already completed his Golden Core, will accompany her. Shen Shi grows worried. This script has changed again. The butterfly effect is becoming larger. I don't know if I can still control the later stages of the plot. Soon after, the Patriarch senses his hesitation and applies some pressure. Master Shen, Shangding Immortal Sect is one for all, and Master Shen is also a member of the Shangding Immortal Sect. Seeing no way out of it, Shen Shi puts on a cheerful face and readily agrees to the mission. The Patriarch and the Great Elders are both stunned by his easy compliance. Moments later, the scheming elder is left completely baffled. As soon as the news spreads, the sect's disciples begin to gossip, speculating that Shen Shi only agreed because he and Bai Ran are secretly a couple. Bai Ran overhears the rampant rumors. Kia, I'm so jealous. I also want a dual cultivation with Master Shen Shi, and becomes incredibly flustered, while another disciple laments that it should have been her. On the other side, with the decision made, Shen Shi announces his departure, preparing to leave. He calls out to Bai Ran, telling her, Bai Ran, come to my room later. The onlookers immediately misunderstand his invitation. Bai Ran blushes and panics, while Shen Shi has no idea how quickly the rumor energy is spreading. Then, he tries to clarify that he is already prepared for the journey and doesn't see what the big deal is, which only adds to the misunderstanding. Later, as Shen Shi and Bai Ran walk together, the awkward tension is palpable. Their walk is interrupted by an excited cheer, who runs up to welcome her master back. Soon after, he gently pats her head, telling her, good girl, go and find your senior sister. Master still has business to do. Xiao Chair turns her attention to Bai Ran, greeting her. This is Master Bai Ran, right? Hello, big sis. Bai Ran is surprised. Hello. You are Xiao Qi. No, Xiao Cheer. I didn't think that you were a female. Moments later, Xiao Cheer asks, big sis, did you come to Urbai Peak to play with Master? Bai Ran becomes incredibly flustered, unable to find the right words to explain the situation without sounding guilty. She thinks to herself, how should I put it? Your master wants to invite me to spend time with him. Shen Shi calmly explains that he and Master Bairan need to discuss their upcoming trip to the Yuhua sect. But Bairan's imagination jumps to dual cultivation, and she nearly short-circuits. On the other side, she covers her mouth, stunned and embarrassed by her own lewd thoughts. Finally, after all this time, she has cleared up the misunderstanding. When Shen Shi asks what she meant by duel, Bairan instantly denies everything. Qier, tucked comfortably nearby, smirks like the chaos is going exactly as planned. Xiao Qier starts her teasing, scolding her master. Master, I said you could look for a wife, but isn't it a bit much to just bring someone home without saying anything? Then Shen Shi threatens Xiao Qier, stop talking nonsense. I'll spank you, and Xiao Qier runs off laughing, having successfully sowed the seeds of chaos. Shen Shi turns back to a blushing Bai Ran, trying to steer the conversation back to the serious matter of the Di Qing sect. Master Bai, the behavior of the Di Qing sect is too weird. Personally, I think things are not that simple. The chapter ends with Bai Ran unable to stop thinking about Qier's teasing, and the possibility of becoming Shen Shi's wife. Chapter 22 opens as Shen Shi and Bai Ran prepare for their important mission, with Bai Ran looking both confused and expectant. Then, Shen Shi surprises her by presenting a magnificent sword. He reveals that he forged it himself from the iceberg bamboo jade she had gifted him earlier, and has named it Hanzu. He explains its unique property. The more spiritual energy the wielder channels into it, the more powerful its sword aura becomes. Bai Ran is stunned. She can feel the immense spiritual energy radiating from the blade and instantly recognizes it as an intermediate quality profound grade treasure, an incredibly rare and valuable weapon. Soon after, Shen Shi explains that he is giving it to her for her disciple, Wei Qin. To prevent the sword from attracting unwanted attention, he has placed a spirit seal on it to conceal its true power unless it is used at maximum capacity. Bai Ran is overwhelmed. Such a treasure is priceless. Even their sect's own patriarch only possesses a weapon of similar grade. Yet, Shen Shi speaks of it so casually. He hands her the sword, telling her to take good care of Wei Qin, noting that she is close to his own disciple, Qier. The gesture is as much about alliance as it is about protection. Moments later, completely charmed by his generosity and thoughtfulness, a blushing Bai Ran clutches the sword and thanks him sincerely. With the gift exchanged, Shen Shi's expression turns serious. He brings the conversation back to their mission, reminding her of the potential threat from the Di Qing sect. While Shen Shi discusses strategy, Bai Ran is lost in her own thoughts. She is deeply touched by his kindness and wonders how she could possibly repay someone who seems to lack for nothing. On the other side, Shen Shi, oblivious to her inner turmoil, continues to lay out his tactical analysis, certain that their enemies won't make an obvious move. He proposes his plan to ensure they are prepared for any traps. They must travel separately. Bai Ran will act as the official envoy in the open while he will follow her in secret as a second-hand preparation. He asks for her opinion, but Bai Ran seems to have completely zoned out, her face showing shock and confusion. Then, in a classic case of misunderstanding, Bai Ran has taken his words in a completely different, much more romantic context. She flusters, thinking he is talking about a second time, and stammers that once is enough. Now it is Shen Shi's turn to be utterly baffled. He has no idea what she is talking about or why. Anse would be enough for a backup plan. Despite the confusion, Bai Ran blushes furiously and promises she will prepare well, leaving Shen Shi completely lost. Soon after, the two stand in a moment of awkward silence, caught in a communication breakdown fueled by her wild imagination and his obliviousness. As she runs off, Shen Shi realizes he absolutely needs to explain the plan to her one more time to make sure they're on the same page. Unbeknownst to them, Xiao Qier has been spying on their entire conversation. She views the seemingly pure and virtuous Bai Ran as a serious threat and a rival for her master's affection. Moments later, she feels uneasy about her master's trip to the Yuhua sect, a place known for its cultivators, known for dangerous dual cultivation techniques. She laments her own low cultivation level, knowing she is too weak to accompany him and would only be a hindrance. Her imagination runs wild with jealousy, picturing her master being pulled into a dangerous dual cultivation scheme, destroying any hope she has for herself. On the other side, her jealousy runs wild as she imagines Shen Shi getting dragged into a dangerous dual cultivation scheme, and the thought makes her panic. Dropping her jealous act in an instant, Xiao Qier turns around with an innocent smile, addressing him sweetly. He gently admonishes her, telling her to focus on her training and master the treasures he gave her while he is away. Then, she responds with an enthusiastic "Yes, master," running off to begin her training. Watching her go, Shen Shi reflects on the original plot of his novel. He vaguely recalls that this diplomatic mission was the starting point of a great catastrophe for the sect. In the original story, the protagonist returned to find the sect in ruins, the patriarch severely injured, and many elders dead. A disaster he is now in a position to prevent. Soon after, it was in that chaotic aftermath that his original villain self tried to destroy Qier. He knows that things are different now, but the underlying threat remains. His thoughts are interrupted by a ding. from his robes. A magical message has arrived. He pulls out the channeling jade sword, the magical communication device he shares with Yu Wushuang. Moments later, the message is from a very frantic Yu Wushuang, who, after being ignored for months, has finally resorted to asking if he is dead. Shen Shi can't help but get ticked off by her aggressive message, mentally firing back a snarky reply. He scrolls up through the message history and sees her countless unanswered texts, from "Good morning" to "Are you there?" On the other side, lying back on his bed, he casually begins to type out a reply. He gives a simple excuse: "Sorry, I shut off to craft weapons for 3 months." Her angry tone immediately vanishes, replaced with apologetic and clingy messages, much to Shen Shi's exasperation. Then, he groans at her behavior, wondering why she is such a people-pleaser and a cell phone addict. On the other end, Yu Wushuang is relieved. She knows Shen Shi's personality and figures he won't stay angry over something so small. But a sliver of doubt remains, and she quietly worries if she might have actually angered him. Soon after, her attendant suggests she should just confess her feelings to him directly, but Yu Wushuang is too embarrassed, claiming their initial meeting was such a huge misunderstanding that she still doesn't know how to face him. Back in his room, Shen Shi's annoyance spikes as he thinks about Yu Wushuang fawning over his disguised persona, Qian Ren. She senses his mood and asks if something is wrong, since he is not replying. Moments later, in a fit of pique, he lies, telling her he is going with other immortals to explore a hidden realm and won't be able to chat. The mention of other immortals immediately triggers her jealousy, and she anxiously asks if the hidden realm is dangerous. He grits his teeth, forcing himself to maintain his composure and brushes off her concerns, as he thinks internally, "I already said there were immortals accompanying this thing. Not angry at all, so suck it up." On the other side, he sends a curt reply: "No worries, it is not dangerous," hoping to end the conversation. But she insists he be careful and tell her immediately if any problems arise. His lie has only made her more suspicious. Her expression darkens with jealousy. She immediately orders her attendant to find the location of every hidden realm near the Shangding sect, determined to find and confront the bitch she assumes is trying to seduce her man. Then, her attendant, ever the pragmatist, gently reminds her, "Young master, hasn't Master Shen Shi broken up with you?" Yu Wushuang explodes in denial, comically insisting that they were just fighting and their breakup is only temporary. The next morning, the drama with Yu Wushuang is temporarily forgotten as Shen Shi meets with Bai Ran to begin their journey. Soon after, Bai Ran has clearly taken great care with her appearance, wearing a stunning new outfit. Shen Shi compliments her, saying she lives up to her title as an immortal. Seizing the opening, Bai Ran flirts back, moving closer and asking if he is fascinated by what he sees. The chapter ends as Shen Shi smoothly deflects her advance with a charming smile, agreeing that it is time for them to depart on their mission. Chapter 23 opens as they begin their journey across the vast and dangerous Great Cloudy Mountains in the Qingzhou region. Then, this territory is largely under the control of the transcendent Taiyun sect. However, its expansive borders are lawless, a battleground where smaller sects are constantly fighting for dominance and survival. It is in this chaotic environment that sects like Shangding, Yuhua, and Dongming Pavilion have formed a fragile alliance, a community of interest created to fight off common threats together. As he and Bai Ran fly towards their destination, Shen Shi decides it is time to brief her on the true nature of the threat they face. Soon after, he reveals that the Diqing sect, a rapidly rising power, possesses a special technique that allows them to mass-produce spirit-grade treasures, giving their forces a massive advantage in strength. Bai Ran is puzzled. She questions why such a powerful and coveted technique wouldn't attract the attention and greed of the region's top-tier powers. Shen Shi, now wearing a pair of glasses as part of his disguise, coolly explains that his knowledge is insider information, not common knowledge. Bai Ran can't help but notice his mysterious new accessory. Moments later, naturally, she is curious and asks how he managed to obtain such a well-kept secret. He shuts down her line of questioning with a simple, "Don't ask," maintaining his enigmatic persona. Embarrassed by her prying, Bai Ran quickly offers an apology. On the other side, Shen Shi continues his explanation, stating that the Diqing sect's method requires vast resources they don't have. Their rapid expansion is fueled by constant warfare, plundering other sects to sustain their production. Therefore, he concludes they cannot afford to make too many enemies at once and will surely see the strengthening of their alliance as a threat. He predicts they will face hindrances on their trip. Bai Ran looks at him with newfound admiration. She realizes the man she thought she knew has been fooling everyone. Then, his temperamental and unpredictable behavior, the very things that defined his reputation, were nothing more than a carefully constructed disguise. She believes the real Shen Shi is a quiet and wise individual, with an intellect so sharp it is almost frightening. But rather than feeling fear, this revelation makes her feel an overwhelming sense of safety and security in his presence. Soon after, following his plan, Shen Shi instructs Bai Ran to fly ahead and make as much noise as possible, acting as a decoy while he handles the real threat from the shadows. With complete trust in him, Bai Ran speeds off, becoming the visible target, and just as Shen Shi predicted, it doesn't take long for an ambush to materialize. Moments later, Bai Ran senses her pursuers, 3 cultivators, all at the middle golden core stage. Confident in her jade bamboo skill, which excels in speed and extending spiritual power, she believes she can easily outpace them. Watching from a safe distance, Shen Shi observes that Bai Ran, while powerful, is still inexperienced in real combat situations. On the other side, he sees the truth of the situation. The pursuers are not trying to catch her, they are hurting her, forcing her to waste spiritual energy before the real threat emerges up ahead. Then, in an instant, a far more powerful attack slices through the air, aimed directly at her. Bai Ran is stunned to sense the power of a late golden core stage cultivator. Then, she quickly maneuvers to defend herself against the surprise attack. She manages to block the initial strike, but the sheer force of the blow is staggering. She unleashes a defensive technique, a web of energy to counter the assault. Soon after, the technique helps her absorb the impact and regain her balance in the air, but the enemy's assault is relentless, giving her no time to recover. As she struggles to defend, she realizes her grim miscalculation. Her opponent isn't at the late golden core stage, but the peak golden core stage. Moments later, overwhelmed by the superior power, she is knocked back. Knowing she is completely outmatched, Bai Ran resolves to fight to the death, readying a hairpin that serves as a hidden weapon. The peak golden core cultivator moves in for the finishing blow, but Bai Ran launches her hairpin at the exact same moment. On the other side, at the same time, the 3 pursuers cut off her escape, trapping her completely. With no other option, Bai Ran prepares to unleash her most powerful and costly technique, the Jade Bamboo Hidden Technique, Night Movement. She unleashes the attack, a desperate, wide-ranging binding technique. Then, the attack named Fine Leaves spreads out to ensnare her foes. However, the peak golden core cultivator easily counters it, and the resulting backlash injures her. She looks on in despair. Her attack was blocked, the enemy is unharmed, and her spiritual energy is almost completely gone. Soon after, her enemies show no mercy, immediately pressing their advantage with another coordinated assault. Bai Ran faces a terrible choice. She can use Night Movement one last time to restore some energy, but the price would be permanent damage to her cultivation base, dropping her realm down a level. But just as she prepares to sacrifice her future, a dark figure flashes into view. Moments later, Shen Shi has arrived. He calmly positions himself in front of Bai Ran, shielding her from the oncoming attack. With shocking ease, he raises his hands and completely neutralizes the combined attack of 4 golden core stage cultivators. The enemy's powerful techniques dissipate into nothingness upon contact. On the other side, the leader of the ambush is stunned, halting his flying swords in midair. He stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend how someone could shatter the spiritual power of his attack so effortlessly. Shen Shi looks back, his expression grim, revealing his ability to command 2 swords at once. The chapter ends with Shen Shi acting weaker than he is, urging Bai Ran to flee for reinforcements, so he can fight without holding back. Chapter 24 opens as Bai Ran follows Shen Shi's instructions and flees at top speed to the gates of the Yuhua sect. Then, she lands dramatically, looking exhausted and desperate. Playing her part perfectly, she announces her identity and pleads for help, claiming she and Shen Shi were ambushed by the Diqing sect, and he stayed behind to ensure her escape. Before she can say more, a firm hand grabs her arm. Soon after, it is a senior disciple of the Yuhua sect, who eyes her with suspicion. This senior disciple, Lua Qingqing, orders the others to escort the distressed Bai Ran to rest. Bai Ran watches in confusion as the situation begins moving faster than she expected. Moments later, one of the junior disciples asks Luo if they should dispatch a rescue party for Shen Shi, but Luo states they must get permission from the sect master first. Luo reports the incident to the Yuhua sect master, Gu Ning, a cold, imposing woman, listens impassively before dismissing Luo from her throne room. On the other side, Lo leaves with a heavy heart. She now knows the rumors are true. Her sect master has betrayed their alliance and is secretly working with the Diqing sect. She can only pray that Shen Shi, who she believes is walking into a trap, can somehow escape the disaster. Her thoughts are interrupted by the arrival of a stern-looking man. Then, she instantly recognizes him as a member of the Diqing sect. Inside, Ji Yuning formally welcomes the man, addressing him as Elder Kes. Elder Qi coldly announces that he has supposedly defeated Shen Shi, and asks for the status of the one that got away. Soon after, Guning smiles slyly, confirming that Bai Ran has been captured and is locked away in their dungeon. Elder Qi's greed shows immediately. He orders them to bring Bai Ran to him, clearly more interested in her unique cultivation technique than anything else. Ji Yuning is visibly annoyed that Elder Qi ignores her completely and cares only about Bai Ran's cultivation technique. Moments later, she tries to dissuade him, pointing out that Bai Ran's technique is unlikely to help him break through to the nascent stage. She then makes a seductive offer if he accompanies her, She guarantees he will reach the nascent stage in just 7 days, heavily implying dual cultivation. Elder Qi coldly rejects her, calling her methods demonic heresy that would damage his foundations. He demands she bring out Bai Ran immediately or face the consequences. On the other side, furious and humiliated by his public refusal, Ji Yuning glares at him. She barks an order to her disciple, "Bring her here." A weakened Bai Ran is dragged into the hall, her arms held by 2 disciples. Then, seeing Elder Qi, she immediately demands to know what happened to Master Shen Shi. The elder smirks coldly, lying that he defeated Shen Shi. He offers to spare her life if she hands over her cultivation technique. Devastated but defiant, Bai Ran refuses, proclaiming she would rather die than betray her sect. Soon after, Elder Qi simply tells her that her choice doesn't matter. He grabs Bai Ran and begins to lead her away, telling Guning to proceed with their original plan. Ji Yuning, hiding her anger, orders her loyal disciple to follow him. Moments later, as they fly off, Luo watches with concern, wondering what fate awaits Bai Ran. She mourns the reported death of Shen Shi, a man she had just begun to respect. Stealing her resolve, she decides she must find an opportunity to rescue Bai Ran. On the other side, in a secluded cave, Elder Qi threatens the captive Bai Ran, unaware that Luo is hidden nearby, listening to their every word. The elder foolishly monologues his true intentions, to conquer all the allied sects, revealing his so-called partnership with Guning was a lie from the start. Bai Ran spits curses at him, declaring that his evil sect is doomed to perish. Then, her defiance only amuses him, and he remarks that her purity and elegance make him even more interested in her. Having heard enough, the hidden spy realizes she must warn her sect master about this betrayal immediately. She quickly and quietly slips away from her hiding spot. Soon after, Elder Qi smirks, having noticed the spy's departure. Everything is going according to his plan. But then, a familiar voice calls out her name. It is Shen Shi, who has been disguised as Elder Qi this whole time. Before anyone can react, Lu Qingqing launches an attack on the disguised Shen Shi, whom she mistakes for Elder Qi. Moments later, Shen Shi easily parries her attack, far too powerful for a mere peak golden core cultivator. He turns to face his attacker and recognizes who it is. Luo freezes in shock, recognizing the man she thought was dead. On the other side, Shen Shi is furious. He hadn't realized there was more than one spy. Believing Lu to be a genuine enemy he missed, he resolves to eliminate her. Bai Ran, overcome with emotion, rushes to Shen Shi's side. She tearfully embraces him from behind, overjoyed that he is alive and well. Then, Luo, wiping a tear from her own eye, is also visibly relieved that he survived. Shen Shi apologizes, stating, "My apologies. Even though it seems you intended to save Bai Ran and did not collude with the Diqing sect, I still cannot let you leave." The poor girl is completely lost, unable to make sense of the bizarre turn of events. Soon after, Shen Shi finally reveals his master plan. He explains that he disguised himself as Elder Qi and intentionally leaked the fake betrayal, knowing the spy would report it. He predicts Guning will now purge the Diqing infiltrators and re-establish their alliance. He calmly states the situation will be resolved in 2 hours, and cheekily asks a blushing Luo to stay and accompany him while they wait. The chapter ends with Luo completely charmed and flustered, meekly agreeing that staying with Shen Shi is no trouble at all.